folks. Welcome to dotnet Conf Student Zone. I am Pablo Lopez, a cloud advocate at Microsoft, and I'm so happy to see you with us. And I know .NET may seem complicated. You've probably seen a little bit of .NET Conf, and it says, oh my God, so many news. How can I learn even .NET, right? So join us so we can actually show you a little bit of what the .NET framework is capable of. You're going to see a lot of AI. You're going to see a lot of Aspire. You're going to see even, but Pablo, I don't know .NET. Don't worry. We're going to show you the basic steps to do your own portfolio website with us. So I'm Pablo, as I said before, and I'm here with Katie. I know I'm going to point twice.
Hey, Pablo. It's great to see you. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited for today at the .NET Conf Student Zone. I'm a technical program manager here at Microsoft. I work with the .NET team, and I'm super excited to share this event with you. So before we go any further into the amazing sessions we have today, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what .NET is. I know we have a lot of students and beginners here today, probably some folks who've never even heard of .NET. So I thought I'd give you a really quick little elevator pitch to get us warmed up here. So this slide has a bunch of stuff on it, but what I'm really trying to show here is that you can build anything with .NET. So .NET is what we like to call a unified developer platform. I really like to think of it as like a toolbox that you can use to build cloud applications, web, desktop, mobile. You can build games, you can build IoT apps, and of course, AI. I'm sure you've heard a lot about AI in the past couple months. You can do it all with .NET. And all these little boxes here on the bottom are really to show you the tools that you have at your disposal. So with .NET, you can use a bunch of different languages. You're going to see a lot of C# today primarily, and a little bit later, we're going to show you some resources you can use to actually learn C# if you're new to that language. You can also use a bunch of tools. So you can use Visual Studio Code, your CLI, of course, GitHub Copilot, and more. These are just some of my favorites. You can run .NET pretty much anywhere, Windows, Linux, Mac, and you have a bunch of other support here. So the one I'm going to call out from this list is .NET Aspire, because that's going to be included in one of our sessions today. So we're super excited to introduce you to that tool. So now that you've learned a little bit about what .NET is, again, it's totally fine if you're not familiar with everything on this screen. You're going to learn a lot of it today. And learning .NET is a journey, so we can continue to learn over the next couple of weeks and months. But I'm really excited to get into our sessions. We have a pretty jam-packed schedule today, and I'm first going to hand it off to Pablo to talk about our technical portion of the event.
Yeah, folks, and I always like to talk to you about one thing. We talk a lot about AI, but you cannot do a lot of those without the framework. Why I'm saying this? I'm saying that .NET Conf Student Zone, you focus a lot on you and your career. So our focus here is to understand that we have multiple possibilities. It's not just what we're hyping right now, but you can follow careers in mobile, you can follow careers in basically web development, application development, just with .NET. .NET is just more powerful than just the current hype cycle that we are in right now. We have so many, much more things that we could talk about. For example, you don't know how even begin to .NET. You're questioning, okay, how .NET even works? You're going to have an amazing way to test .NET with Codespaces. So our first session, we dedicated you to how you build your portfolio with Codespaces. So you can actually do that with .NET. Then I even talk about that. Of course, cannot escape AI. We're going to talk a little bit about AI and .NET Aspire, because even though it is amazing innovation, we need to have some way to control our applications, and Aspire is the perfect way. But Pablo, I don't know what Aspire is. Don't worry. You're going to see how it works and how you can use it for build an amazing app with Aspire. But of course, as I said, these are just the technical sessions, but here we are for you. So let's learn a little bit more about your career. Katie, what do we have for our career sessions?
We have so many amazing sessions coming up, Pablo. I'm super excited. This is our first time having a career portion in this event, and we're going to kick it off strong with Rubal. And Rubal is an early in profession recruiter, and he's going to be talking to us and giving us some advice about resumes, the whole hiring process, everything that is in his toolkit, he's going to share with you all. Then we're going to have a couple of different interview style sessions. The first one's going to be with a .NET hiring manager. The second is with an early in profession, early in career engineer. And she's about 3 years into her career here at Microsoft. She's going to be telling you how she got here, what her day in the life is like, and more. We're going to be talking with Heather, who is a senior developer manager at Geocaching HQ, and she's going to be talking about what it was like to change from a data career into a software development career. Then we're going to be talking with a couple of student ambassadors, both around what it's like to be a student ambassador as well as their work. So first, we're going to be talking to Victor, who is a PhD candidate, and we're going to be talking with him about accelerating HPC workloads with Azure Batch and dotnet. Then we're going to round it all out and finish with Nicholas, who's going to be talking with us about his experience as a Microsoft Learn student ambassador. Whew, I feel like I need to take a breath. We have so much going on. I'm super hyped. And I really just want to remind everybody that the chat is open. So please ask all of your questions there. We'll be looking at it. We'll be answering those questions. We want you to connect with each other and connect with us. So
Bingo.
Before we get started, I'm super excited, but there's one final thing I want to do here, and that's going to be to talk about our CTAs. And by that, I mean what we want you to take away from this event. So we have a couple of learn more opportunities, as well as kind of event resources. The first one, I kind of plugged this earlier, but as a .NET developer, something we really care about is the C# language. And we do have a free resource here, a free certification that you can take and put it on your resume and start training with C# today. So that's that link at the top there. We also have some event resources for you. So if you're looking for some of the demos you're going to see today or some additional learning resources, check out that second link. And then finally, we really want to hear from you about how this event is going for you. So if you have the time, we'd really appreciate it if you can fill out that feedback survey towards the end of the event. That'll really help us out with our future events and also just to make sure that you're having a great time here today. So, yeah. All right, Pablo, what do you think?
I think that's incredible. And not only that, but the cool part of everything you're learning right now is the full agenda. We have everyone from across the world just talking to you about .NET and learn with us. Do the certification. That's free, guys. And you can even put in your CV. That can be an incredible boost to your CV in general. Get internships, even join us. That would be incredible. But for now, I'm gonna say let's start our first session. Codespaces and .NET. Take it away.
Hi everyone, and welcome to .NET Conference 2024 Student Zone. Thank you very much for joining from all around the world, and it's really exciting to see the energy from students who want to learn about technology. In fact, before this year's conference, we decided to make some research into some of the things you all would love to learn, and we realized that you all wanted to learn about how to develop your careers, how to get jobs, how to get internships, how to get roles. And that's the reason why we are having this session as part of this conference. Plus, I'm really excited about all of the other things that we're going to have at the end. I'm Jaflet Wamum, and I am a .NET Cloud Advocate, and I have an amazing Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador who will be preparing this session together. And he's really excited about speaking here. Krishna, thank you so much for agreeing to have this session with me. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Krishna and I am from Hyderabad. And today we are going to discuss about how to create your own portfolio using GitHub Codespaces. And let's dive into that. And it is super easy and I'm very much excited about this. Let's dive in.
Great. I'm even more excited. Like I said, it's been weeks of preparations. Thank you so much for doing this again. So as Krishna had mentioned, we're going to be talking about how you can build a personal portfolio for yourself using .NET and GitHub Codespaces. Trust me, it is going to be exciting. Throughout this session, we're going to learn about GitHub Codespaces for those of you who have no idea what it's about. And you're going to see how GitHub Codespaces is empowering developers all around the world to build amazing solutions. Then we're going to dive into the awesome project to be showcasing to you all, and also show you all how you can get started setting up your environment and customizing your own portfolio website. But just before we dive in, let's talk a little bit about the reason why it's important for you all as students to have a portfolio. You all do amazing stuffs. You all create beautiful projects. You get to practice a whole lot and work on so many cool stuffs. A portfolio is that opportunity for you to tell the world about the cool and amazing stuffs that you have done. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my story into Microsoft. And this is what it really looks like. In September 2019, I was a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador like Krishna from Nigeria. And I had the opportunity to do amazing stuffs. As a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, for those of you who are not aware, you have access to loads of opportunity. And I had access to all of those. And then I got the opportunity to graduate from university in 2021. But within 2019 and 2021, I learned a couple of things. First, I had the opportunity to build projects utilizing different Microsoft technologies. But most importantly, I realized the need to showcase all of those projects that I have built. Because I had a portfolio, a place to showcase those projects, to talk about them, to tell the world about the beautiful things I've done, I had the opportunity, along with other friends of mine who were also Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors, to join Microsoft in May 2022 as a cloud advocate. And fast forward to 2 years down the line, here I am talking to you all at .NET Conference Student Zone as a Microsoft employee. You might not get to work at Microsoft, but trust me, having a great portfolio can help you get that role that you have been longing to get. I decided to make some research plus the experience I've had, and I wanted to talk a little bit about why it's important for you to have a portfolio. First, it's a great way for you to showcase all of the beautiful things you've done. You see, a lot of times, that project that you have built, no matter how little it is, can make you stand out from the crowd when applying for a role. The good things you have done, those things that affect people's lives that you have built, can go a long way. So whether you're creating your resume, or you have your personal blog, or you have your personal portfolio website, as we are going to help you create, you need to showcase all of those things because it differentiates you from all the other people who are applying for a specific role. And then as a student, it's also important that you have your own personal brand. It's more of something people around the world know you for. Back when I was a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador around 2019 all through 2022, for a lot of people, they knew me as a Power Platform developer. That was the brand I built. I talked much more about Power Platform, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents, and just the entire Power Platform suite. Although now I've transitioned to .NET, but that was something people knew me for because of the projects, because of my portfolio, because of the things I spoke about. And that was interesting. It was easy for me to showcase to people that I can do this thing, I can actually get this job done. Another reason is that people get to see how you grow over time, and that's very important. Growth is something that you need to show always, and your portfolio, the projects you build, as you showcase them, people get to see it, the world gets to see how you're able to utilize your skills and build great stuffs. So you don't want to just be restricted to those projects, default projects, or projects that have been given to you there. You want to add more, make more changes, add changes to it, come up with your own projects from scratch, try out new stuffs. As you grow and keep making your projects better, people get to notice it and they can see that growth. Having a portfolio is also an opportunity for you to really work on projects that affect people's lives. And that's what employees need. They don't need you to just be someone who comes there and writes code, but how does the code you write reflect on people's lives? How does it affect people? How does it solve problems? That is very important. And once you upload your project or you showcase those projects of yours utilizing any of the methods, you are sure to be able to show to these people that yes, you are solving real world problems. And when you get into that role, you will definitely also be able to solve those real world problems. And then it helps you build confidence. There is this excitement and confidence that comes into you once the project you have built, people are actually using it. Once people are giving you feedback, you can take on new projects, you can go on to, once you get into your role or once you get an opportunity to work for a tech company, because you have already done this before, you are more confident to take on more problems and solve them. And how will I forget to talk about the fact that having your portfolio creates opportunities for you? It is very, very important that you not only have a portfolio with projects that others have built, but also have a portfolio with unique projects. Once you're able to have that kind of portfolio, it's easy for you to send it out to people. And even if people cannot see you, even if they cannot speak with you, they do not have a conversation with you, your project is already telling a story about you. So if you don't have a portfolio, I think it's very, very important that you take it really seriously and develop one. Okay, so probably this has been boring, but I hope I've been able to convince you that you need a portfolio. Now, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to help you to develop a portfolio website. We're going to be using an amazing tool known as GitHub Codespaces. For those of you who are not conversant with what GitHub Codespaces is, it's an amazing tool that makes it easy for you to write code and also helps you save this code. So if you're probably conversant with GitHub, once you write your code, for it to get saved, you have to do a pull request, you have to commit, and just in case you forget to commit, there might be issues along the way. And this is where GitHub Codespaces come. Your project gets to be saved on the cloud, and then you can have access to them at any point in time from any of the devices. I've had the opportunity to try out GitHub Codespaces both as a Microsoft employee and also when I was part of the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors program. But hey, let's hear from a student. Krishna, have you had the opportunity to try out GitHub Codespaces?
Hi. Yes, I have had the opportunity to work with GitHub's Codespaces, and it's been incredibly easy and so much fun to work with it. While have also worked with Visual Studio Code, comparatively, GitHub Codespaces is very beginner friendly and it is awesome, guys. Because
Yeah,
you don't have to be a really developer to participate in this GitHub Codespaces. Because it's super easy, and after going with this session, you will also be a GitHub Codespace developer, and will be awesome.
great. Trust me, you all are going to have some fun with GitHub Codespaces. And we're going to be sharing resources with you all that would help you all to get started using GitHub Codespaces. Okay, I think it's time for the main parts, our demo. Ready for this, Krishna?
Yes, I am.
Great. So for you all joining our session, you can try out this demo using the link that's displaying currently in the screen, and it should be somewhere on this specific stream. Try it out, aka.ms.net-portfolio-website. It's going to take you to a web browser, and let's show you how you can get started. So just before we dive into the main demo, I wanted to actually show you what it's like to have your personal portfolio. And again, this personal portfolio can be it could be your blog, it could be your GitHub repository, or it could be your personal website. This is what mine looks like. It's just a basic introduction into who I am, what I do, and basically talking about some things that people need to know about me. So for example, when I share this link with people, or probably I have it on my resume, people can come here and they can see that I'm a developer advocate. I work with dotnet, I work with Microsoft 365, I work with Azure. I'm excited about artificial intelligence, and I work with communities, startups, as well as building solutions. You can also see my roles, depending on what you decide to put here. That's what they get to see. Plus, they get to have a little more detail into you with the follow me on section. But one key part that I would love to highlight, if you're really an engineering person, you're a person that writes code or a software developer, is the contribution sections. Here, you can see how many commits you have made, languages you are conversant with, and then you have the opportunity to pick projects that you want to showcase. As you notice, I have different GitHub repositories, but I think this project would really go a long way in putting me out there and showcasing people the things I've done. And so I pinned them here so people can see them. I'm not more of an engineering person or someone who writes lots of code. That's the reason why you see I don't have lots of programming languages and commits and PROs down here. Looks a little bit scanty, but I wanted to show you what someone who I know, a friend of mine, actually looks like. And this is Julia's GitHub repository. This is what it looks like, and it gives you a new perspective into how you can create yours. Notice that for Julia, the first thing she did was showcase all the badges and certifications that she has had. So once you're using this as your portfolio, people can see, oh wow, Julia has done lots of cool stuff, or whoever you are, this person has done lots of cool stuff, and they can relate to what you have done. And then notice that she has more GitHub statistics than I do. She has more comments, she has more PRs, she has more issues she has contributed to raise and that have been accepted. And she's conversant with more programming languages than I am, which is great. Here she has her tech stacks and tools. This looks a little bit more exciting than mine, perhaps. So you can also go over and create a portfolio from something like this using your profile on GitHub. And hey, if you need to do something like this, just check on these examples and you can see how you can get started with yours. Now let's talk about the portfolio website. The link we shared with you, which we're sure you must have opened now, would link you to this resource. So I'm just going to open it up. And this is the repository. I'm going to basically walk you through some of the things in this repository. First, you have the dev container. So if you're looking to experiment or creating a container using Docker, this would help you to get started with it. If you also want to do that using Visual Studio Code, you also have this folder here that contains all you need to do. All you have to do is, depending on the editor you are conversant with and you would love to use, you have to just come over here. And if it's locally, you can pick up the link or open with GitHub desktop or open with your Visual Studio. And then if you probably are using Visual Studio Code, you can also open with GitHub desktop and open up with in Visual Studio Code, just to give you access to actually do this in a development environment that is convenient for you. But we're going to be using GitHub Codespaces, and we'll be getting to that in just a moment. Something also exciting about this is you also get access to how you can get over it or do it yourself, how you can replicate it yourself. You can come over here and you can see all of the steps that you need to go through. So just in case you miss any part of the things we've said, or we're not able to go extensively into this, you can come over here and try it out yourself. And then You also get to learn how you can actually deploy this into, as a web application using Azure Static Web Apps. You're also going to learn how to do this when you come over to this page. So this repository is actually a nice place for you to get started creating your own portfolio websites. I'm sure you all are excited. I know you all are, and looking forward to we actually getting onto this. So at this point, I'm going to pass it on to my co-speaker, Krishna, who is looking forward to walk us through this demo. And then later on, we're going to come back to me to also show you some exciting stuff. Passing it over to you now, Krishna.
So let us start with this Codespaces and how we can build effectively your own portfolio within just low code or no code. Let us dive in. So I think everybody is on par with me, and we are here in the GitHub. And here you can see here on top right green color code, and you can create a code space on the main. Click on that link and voila. So here you can see it is redirected to this GitHub code space, and it is setting up. It will take around 2 minutes. Meanwhile, you can have a coffee or a drink. So let us wait for a few seconds.
Yeah, and while we're waiting, I really love how fast it was to get started creating your code space. Again, it's setting up everything that you're actually going to need to make sure things work smoothly and fine for you. And that's really cool and exciting. You don't have to go through the entire process of having to bring it over to your computer, or download the GitHub repository and then edit the folder and all of those things that you usually have to do. I mean, that's really exciting and really easy. Just to mention, for you all, GitHub Codespaces is going to take some time to actually set up the environment. So don't be scared. Don't feel like you're doing something wrong. It's actually the right path. You're safe. Nothing is going to get wrong along the way. Maybe we can try reloading the screen, Krishna, and see if we're good to go at this point.
Let us reload. It is still setting up.
Okay, still setting up. And we're gonna wait a little bit more. So seems Krishna's code space is taking a long time to load up. Well, let's dive straight into mine and we'll just show you how this works. Krishna, I have mine opened up. I'm just gonna head over to it and you can go over and talk about it.
Yep. Now we are here at about me section, about me.json. Okay. So here. So this is where the entire text will be about your skills and about your what are your passion and what are you passionate about and your description, who are you and what is this portfolio about, and you can paste everything here, like what is this portfolio reflects about you. So let us start.
Just before you edit the descriptions in the about me.json file, you will notice that the first time when you open up your GitHub code spaces, it would open up this way. And then you have to open up each folder, the entire folder, which contains, as we have mentioned, the .dev container where you have your Docker file and you have instructions on the Docker version to use and how to just create your Docker developer environment just in case you are creating a container for it. And then you have this .github workflow, which has instructions for this to automatically publish all of these to GitHub pages. Notice that I get a prompt. Do you want to install the recommended GitHub Actions extension for GitHub for publish-gh pages, which is this? What is going to happen is GitHub Codespaces is going to automatically create GitHub page environment for us. I'm not going to install it, but you can go over to install yours. And then you have .vs Code, which basically tells this entire thing to open up an environment, a Visual Studio Code environment for you. And then you have the different images, which we're going to talk about, and how you can edit them. So just in case you need to remove a specific image and include yours, you can come over here and get it done. And this src-blazor app, where you have the different piece that help to make up this entire portfolio website. But we're going to be focusing on this section about me.json. Now, first thing you have to do is you would need to come over to your terminal for you to be able to see the web browser. Let me just open it up and show you what it's all about. So notice here, I can't see anything. I should not be able to see anything. Yes, it's blank and empty. But when I come over to my terminal and I do .NET restore, what is going to happen is it's going to tell me all projects are up to date and restore, and then I do .NET build. Now you can decide to do .NET restore and sign .NET build as is shown in the GitHub repository instructions. That also works perfectly fine. It's still the same thing, whether I decided to do it together or separately. And then next you have to do SWA start, which simply means you're starting up a static web application. So I'm just going to click on start, and you can see that it is live. So it's saying I would have to utilize port 5000, not, okay, so I should still be able to open this up. So let me reload, and you can see this going on, and I have the website up. It's easy for you to have this side by side to your code because it enables you to see the changes in real time. And I think that's really interesting, Krishna, right?
Yeah.
Great. So you wanted me to edit the descriptions, right?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Now, Krishna had asked me to put everything together. So what I did just to be prepared for this entire session and creating my portfolio website was to actually have all of the different bits of text that's going to be needed for this portfolio website ready. So for example, we're going to need my bio, which you should already have beforehand. You would also need your images just in case you need to edit them and so you don't need to make errors. And then in your site properties, which Krishna is also going to talk about, you can edit the different properties that you need to. So I'm just going to copy my bio over here. And then what I'm going to do is come over here and I would stick that in. Hope I didn't. Oops, I messed something up. So let's go back and have it in a single line.
Maybe a semicolon
Great.
or comma space.
Yes, so let me make sure that was properly imputed. Thanks for mentioning that. Yes, a comma is imputed at that point. Okay, Krishna, done.
Yeah. So now that we have edited our bio, now let us start with skills. So, Jeffrey, what are your skills? And let us the audience see what are you in specialized in.
Good. So for me, I am a Power Platform developer. That's one major thing people always knew me by. So I would write Power Platform developer. And then something else people also knew me by is .NET, which I'm now talking about and helping people to build solutions with. And then also conversant with Microsoft 365. And oh, how can I forget to include artificial intelligence? I always love artificial intelligence.
Exactly. The trending
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I shouldn't have forgotten that. So let's do, yep, I love AI. And let's not forget to include our comma. Anything else about myself I am forgetting here? Love building communities. Okay, I think this is enough, right,
Yeah.
Krishna? Or do I have to add more?
Anything more we can add of any Microsoft technologies you have been part of in during your student ambassadors?
Okay, that's important. I think I had that in my GitHub repository. So
Okay, let's
I'm going
dive
to,
into your GitHub repository. And
yes, let's take a sneak peek over there. Okay, so maybe I can pick this, right?
yep.
Great. So let me do that and come over here and boom, I have it. Okay.
Yep. I think
Great.
this looks good.
So
Now, what are you passionate about? Any quote you want to give about yourself?
I'm passionate about solving problems in creative ways. Okay, so let me do this. For me, I have always been passionate about empowering people to build solutions with technology. Great. And I mean, that's a sneak peek from Microsoft's motto, which is to empower everyone, every person
Yep.
on the planet to achieve more, right? So,
Yes.
empowering.
Yep. So that is very good profile, Jafflet. Now that we have edited our bio, let's dive into what next? Images. Sure, we all have very beautiful images of ourselves. Who don't want to post their pictures? We all post our pictures in Instagram or anywhere, but we also want professionally display ourselves in a portfolio, right? So let
Yeah.
us keep our profiles dignified and formal. Let us check.
So, I'm going to show
Okay,
mine,
and
which I added in. Don't mind me that it's already displayed here, but this is what my professional photo, which you might see on a lot of my profile, looks like. Maybe you have
yeah,
yours and it's way cooler than this, but you should actually have a photo that doesn't have a distracting background. Notice I don't have people in my background, it's just me. And maybe in future, what I would really want to do is style this a little bit more. So styling it in such a way that it fits in properly. Because
yep,
notice here it looks like it's not properly fitting. But maybe when we check it over in the browser officially, it might look nice. So let me close this GitHub Actions so it doesn't distract. Now I have my photo. You can come over, upload your photo, and heroes images, right? That's all we can see our different images. So to get this image over in heroimages.json, all I had to simply do was open the image in a folder which I had created here. In this folder, notice I have everything created already, and I had my photo, and I can just easily drag this over and push it here. So let's do that again. And let's just replace that photo there. Let's also try replacing this, which is another photo I had initially imputed here. And I have one last photo, which I initially had, and I was going to use to style my background. I don't know how it's going to look like. Might not be nice, but
Yeah.
so probably we won't have to use this. But here I have this image, which I imputed.
This looks cool.
Yeah, it
This looks
does, which I
nice.
imputed down here. So yeah, that's pretty much how you can get that part done, imputing your images or getting your images into the repository.
Jaffer, could you scroll the left panels little bit lower? No, here in the Solution Explorer.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we can see projects.json.
Exactly.
Here you can edit your portfolio according to your profile. See here the title and description and the relevant URL. Okay. In the first thing, we have 10 things to know about Azure Static Web Apps. So we can have a look about, can you click on this right side because it is open, right? Yeah. No, yeah,
So,
click on that.
okay.
So since we have given our URL here, now click on that.
So I should probably open it up, and here it opens a default article.
See, we have got your new URL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Obviously.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Now let us edit. Anything you want to add, Jaflet, to your portfolio since you are a student ambassador? Anything from Microsoft Learn student ambassadors so the students can know of?
Yeah, sure. So something else to note from this section is the main part of your portfolio website. It's the big part of it. Remember on your GitHub repository, I spoke about showcasing certain parts. And let me come over to my GitHub repository. Don't forget, I talked about the key projects which I pinned that were very important, that I thought or I felt would go a long way in making this amazing. Right. So think of that project that you have built. Think of that blog that you have written. You can come over here and impute them. All you have to do is just edit the text, the title of the blog, the article, the project, and then give a little bit of a description into what it's about. Impute your URL that takes you to the project. As you can see, here is the GitHub URL. These are defaults to take you to the web development for beginners project on GitHub that you can check out, right? These are defaults. You can edit them, you can add yours, and you can add as many as possible to make it look really nice. I think this is small. So what I'm going to do is copy out this link, and I'm going to open up a new browser tab, and let's really see what it actually looks like on a larger screen. So this is what it looks like. Again, don't mind my profile picture. I have my eyes cut off. Here I have the about section, and come over here, you can see my picture and my portfolio, right? So you can see everything extensively. When you need to run everything all over again, you will be able to see all these changes that you make along the way.
Anything you want to add, Jacqueline?
Yeah, you can see GitHub Codespaces, GitHub Copilot is actually giving me some recommendations. Here, if you notice, it's telling me, oops, I lost that.
Yep,
okay.
It's back again.
It's back again.
Wow, it's a lot.
Yep. Oops, I lost it again. Let's see if I can get it back.
Press tab once again. Tab.
Yes.
Yep.
I didn't want to pick all of them. So I have lots of this thanks to GitHub Copilot. But I don't need all of them. So I'm just going to take them out. Oops. And I removed all of them, which I wasn't planning to. Yeah. So.
Yep.
Let's do this again. Let me pick from here.
You could do one thing, copy just one and
yes,
you can backspace and you can paste it.
Great. So this works now.
Yeah. I think you need to complete square bracket, right? Yeah, now it's good.
And I think we should have that. So here I've made all of the changes and you see GitHub Copilot has actually added this for me. My title is Microsoft Student Ambassador and description is help to create a community of students who are passionate about technology and want to share their knowledge with others, which is like exciting and really what Microsoft Student Ambassadors get to do, Krishna, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we do as Microsoft Student Ambassadors. So let's see all of these changes and hopefully they show here. Okay. This almost gave me a heart attack. I thought it was not going to work out, but just in case yours doesn't work out, two things you have to do is reload this page and it might show up the new changes that you have made, or you need to check if you are using the right ports. So we have switched from the terminal tab to the ports tab. Here, you just come over, open up different ports, and hopefully it might be in the right port, or all of the ports might have been updated right at that time. You can also try out .NET build, just restart the entire terminal and restart your static web apps, and hopefully you should be able to see the new changes. But don't panic if it happens. And here, when I come over to the web page, I can see a more organized view. This looks much, but you can edit yours just to make it a couple of lines. I think the shorter you make it, the easier it is for people to actually read through. And you can see all of the things. I am a lover of AI, Power Platform developer, .NET developer, love building communities, technical writer, and I have this cool picture, which really exciting, showing innovation. We build projects that explode the entire space and real people use. That was the motivation behind this picture, and I have it here. Notice the recommendation from GitHub Copilot, the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador role or link that was description that was added for me. I can see it here and it's already attached the link for me. I love the fact that we had to do this with GitHub Codespaces. It made it really, really easy for us. And
yeah,
just the same way we probably had a lot of difficulties, not a lot, well, but we had a couple of difficulties starting up Codespaces and a few others that we encountered. You might also encounter yours. But don't give up on creating your portfolio website. Remember, the end result is way better than what you might have to go through while creating your portfolio website, right?
Yes, and please be free to reach out to us, and we'll try our best to help you.
We're definitely here to
Yes.
help you. Don't forget to use the link to try that out. And hey, I'm going to tell you this top secret. We're having more exciting sessions as part of Student Zone. The last sessions are going to be with a recruiter who's going to tell you what is actually required for you to create an amazing career for yourself and for you to get that role that you're desiring, that internship, that opportunity in tech. So don't go, stay till the end. You're going to enjoy that session and then use all of the insights that you have gained from that session to create your portfolio website, have something beautiful, have something exciting, be creative with your portfolio website, try out lots of things, and you can come back to us with the good news. We'd love to see on LinkedIn when you say, hey, I now have a new role at XYZ company and I'm doing this cool stuff. We'd love to see that. Don't also forget to tell us the amazing things you have learned on LinkedIn using the hashtags that would be shared with you. Talk about the things you have learned and also showcase all of the beautiful things you get to do. It's been nice doing this with you, Krishna. Thank you once again for agreeing to have this session with me and for practicing a whole lot. And we're here at this point. Enjoy the remaining parts of .NET Conference 2024 students, so Krishna and everybody joining. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Wow, that was incredible. Katie, what do you think about Codespaces? Did you enjoy this last session?
I loved it. And I love Codespaces. Honestly, I think it's such an easy way to get started writing code. If you're not as comfortable with the development tools yet, it's so nice to just open up your browser and be able to just run everything you need.
Exactly. And you folks, you can see how easy it is to do your own portfolio. And you can see that Codespaces. You don't need to install Visual Studio Code, that's too heavy. And you don't even worry about your computer. You can do it right away with Codespaces. Remember that Codespaces is available on your GitHub student pack. So if you're interested on your GitHub student pack, take a look. It's very good, and we have amazing more things than just Codespaces. But I know a lot of people are talking about AI, Katie. Is AI everywhere? So right now we're gonna do our next session with Bruno and Ola talking about AI. Take from here, folks.
Hey, hello everyone. Bruno here, part of the Cloud Advocate team, and I'm with my friend Ola. Hey, Ola, how are you?
I'm good. It's a good weather today. I'm really feeling great and super happy to be right here on this, this program, and of course meeting Bruno too.
Oh yes, and hey, we have a super cool topic today to talk. Let me switch our slides. There they are, and we are going to do some AI in .NET, and we are going to see a little of Aspire also there. But before we start, we just talk about ourselves. If you want to contact me, you can find me in any social network, usually at El Bruno. You can see here in Twitter or X or LinkedIn or more. Feel free to contact me. And hey, Ola, do you want to tell people where they can find you and a little more about yourself, please?
Yeah, I've kept it simple. Also, you can find me and locate me on all social media platforms using the tag DOYUBOKE. I'm a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. I'm currently a master's student at the University of Arkansas Little Rock in the US. I'm studying business information systems and analytics. I'm proficient in Python, and it is really exciting because I want to see what Bruno is up to here today. I have interest in .NET, and I've done maybe some basic, project there, but I really want to see how AI and everything fit into the use case is going to present today, because I'm ready to learn.
Hey, that's amazing. And hey, you're going to see me watching here and here from time to time. I have my notes there, and I want to make it rock. I think we have something amazing here. And by the way, we don't have a lot of slides. I just have one to basically talk and show.
And that's good news, because
yes, we want to see
more demo, right?
Yes, we want to see code, and I want to show code. But before we start, if we record this last year, this slide will be very, very different, because right now we have access to so many AI stuff, AI models, a couple of open source models, foundational models, big models like the latest GPT, and models that you can run in your machine. And hey, this is amazing because it's moved from where we were a year ago learning and testing to basically a stage that we have a full kind of a life cycle about this. And I know that we have a lot of stuff here, but you mentioned that you did some Python. Have you played around before this with any of these models or any of these AI technologies?
Interestingly, quite a lot has changed over the years. I'm looking at this now, I'm like, wow, so much has changed. And I've played with a couple of them. For example, I've used Hugging Face, family model in the past, with Python. Basically, when we are analyzing data and doing some sentiment analysis, you can extract using some Hugging Face AI model. And Azure OpenAI, I love Azure OpenAI. And as a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, I have access to also consume and build with these things. Yes, I have a startup that I'm working on, and I'm definitely consuming Azure OpenAI in my project.
Yes, fun fact there. I think it was not so long ago where Hugging Face, they go over the million models that they have available to the public. So if someone wants to start, also huggingface.co is a great place. It's the biggest repository of model that we have. And in Azure AI, we have over 1,000. It's close to 2,000. I don't know the right numbers, but it's amazing because, yes, the main difference that we have there is that the models that we have in AI Studio, there is a team that basically curates the models, validate the models, and we have tools on top of the models and more. But let's switch to our code. Let's switch to our today demo. And today, it's very simple. I have a very simple two-tier application, a front end with a list of products and a search of products, and a backend with API to get products, to search products, and more. And the whole idea is that let's start to add some AI on top of this. So as I said, literally no more slides. Let's switch to the code. But we have a bonus here. Why we have a bonus? If you ask, oh my God, why are we watching
That's my question.
Camera traffic, whatever. This is something that a friend of us of the AI and .NET channel shared with us a couple of weeks ago. And this is a live streaming of cameras in Tenerife. Tenerife is one Spanish island in the middle of, I can't remember where they are, but it's an amazing place. I've been there a couple of times. And he created a solution. Let me show you where is the solution. He created this solution where he basically used AI to analyze the traffic of the cameras. And let me refresh this to see if we have the latest stuff. And you can see in each one of the cameras, very simple here. If you have a green, that's a good to go, no traffic. Of course, red is traffic. And this is low traffic or something like this. But he created this because he wanted to see if we can do it, and also to see when is the best time to go to the office, driving there and more. So this is something that I want to go and talk later. And this is the full solution that we have for that. We have plenty of projects. There are so many things here. The whole idea of today is start with something simple. And then later, if we get here and we give an overview of this, I will hope that you all have said to me, oh yes, now I understand this, because if we start from scratch here, it's going to be a mess. Does this make sense? Do you like the plan?
Perfect. And I'm happy because you kind of understand me, and not just me. Many other people out there who have similar interests like this. Let's see what it is, but let's start from the simple and let's build on top of it. I love your approach, and I'm really ready for this session.
Perfect. So we are going to start, as I said, with a very simple front-end, back-end solution. This is a back-end that has an API of products that you can search products, add products, get details of products. And we have a front-end, which is a Blazor, it's front-end technology that will show this. When I run this project, let's see, this is always a lottery. Which monitor is going to open? Oh, there it is. So it's run the two projects at the same time. We have here the backend. As you can see, it's a JSON response with all of the products that we have. And also in the front end, let me zoom this out. We have this very simple solution with a list of products in a very simple way. This is camping products, solar, hiking poles, survival kits, and more. And we have a search. And the whole idea is that, hey, if I search for solar, in example, I am going to search and get the products that basically the name match my criteria, my search criteria. So I search for solar, I have solar. If I go for outdoor, I have 2 products with outdoor, there it is. So this is a standard search. This is a keyword search. Select all the products that the name includes the word outdoor or something like this. But if I do something like I want to search with a more natural questions like, hey, give me something for rainy days, we are not going to have that yet. That's the idea for today. Try to add this.
Yeah, Bruno, sorry, just to add this quickly. Search is a quest, and every human have this quest always. And most of the best form is to have something that understands you and follow you, rather than you going after, a computer to understand you. If computer understands you, is way better. And I think that is what we are trying to do here. I want something for rainy days. I don't care what the name is called, and that is exactly what you're doing there. This is amazing.
Yes, that's the idea. And by the way, sometimes when we present this, we go directly and we show the final implementation. And the final implementation can be something like we have here in Azure AI Studio, which is our main platform to do AI. And here I have a GPT 3.5 model connected to an index of products. And when I ask a question, suggest something for rainy day, I will have a response pointing to a trail light day pack with 2 reference for products. Hey, we are lucky that if we want to do Azure, if we want to use Azure AI Studio, we can validate how the models work, how we can connect them with data and more. If I remove the data, in example here, let me copy the question. If I remove the data, remove data source. Yes, do not show this again. And clear the chat. And ask the question again. Of course, the answer will be a generic one. Will be, hey, we have a model. This is, by the way, this is a GPT 3.5. We can use a GPT-4, GPT-4o more. But yes, in a rainy day, you need read a book or a movie or watch a movie, try a new indoor hobby. It's a general one. The whole idea today is to use a model like GPT-4o, use an embedding model. We are going to talk about this later, to connect everything and then add it into our solution. And because doing that from scratch, it will be kind of tricky. We are going to use a set of libraries that basically is going to help us to do this. And those libraries, in the .NET world, we have different options. I am going to use Semantic Kernel. Semantic Kernel is a library, it's an open source project that we have that currently supports .NET, JavaScript, .NET, Java, and Python. I don't remember if they have JavaScript yet or not, but it's kind of a layer on top of a lot of AI and search and a lot of services that makes our life easier. Have you played with Semantic Kernel? Have you heard about Semantic Kernel?
Yeah, I have heard about semantic search and the kind of, for example, the Azure, AI search also uses the index, the semantics, search, but the kernel part, no. But right here now, I'm happy because I'm learning about it. And of course, I will check after this session more about it, especially implementation in .NET and Python.
Yes, and it's super cool. So what I am doing here, it's basically on the backend projects, on the product projects that currently have a couple of dependencies. I add now semantic kernel. So we have semantic kernel. We have a memory dependency because we are going to, in this demo, we are going to load a vector database with the products in memory. We can do this with Quadrant, we can do this with Azure AI Search, but in memory, 10 products make sense. So the first step will be to add this package. Then my project, the backend project, it's basically a backend element where we can do stuff working with the data context. So I'm going to add my memory context. I am going to add a couple of things here. But first of all, let's take a look at the search. I have here all of the endpoints from my web service. I can get a product that is going to do the list of products, the gets all products. I can find the product, basically search for one. And somewhere here in the bottom should be my search. Let's stop there. And the search is basically doing a very simple query using Entity Framework, which is a library in .NET to basically help us to work with data. And this is basically saying, hey, in the list of products that we have in the product database, please find the products that what we've seen before. You have a search where the name likes the search criteria. So this is very simple, but we want to do this with AI.
Exactly.
Yes. So in order to do this, I created a new endpoint, search endpoint, that is going to use the product, the data that we have, the data context, but it's also going to use a memory context. And then with the memory, it's going to perform the data. Because we don't have a lot of time, I usually like to code this from scratch, but this is going to take a long time. I have already here the memory class. Let me include the class in the project. And let's take a look at the memory. So the memory class use a lot of semantic kernel. We can see there that use a lot of semantic kernel. And then we have at the beginning a couple of things. So we are going to do two main activities here. First, we are going to create a chat service using an Azure OpenAI service that we already have created. I think in the configuration I have here a GPT-4o mini, but important. And if we have time, we are going to see it later. You can do this using local models. You can download Llama 3.2 or 3.5, run with Llama, and you can run this literally locally, which is kind of nice because we talk about the ecosystem of the models at the beginning, and sometimes I like a flow when I test local. I test and I do my initial prototype using local models, and when I am ready to go to production, I switch to the big guns. I switch to GPT-4o mini, and I go to Azure and I scale and more. But working locally, it's a super, super good option here. Have you played around with local models?
Yeah, I've tried a few lower parameter for Llama before, and it was pretty interesting to work with it. But one thing I want to call out for you here is you are doing a great job simplifying this concept and making it really easy to follow through. I like the structure. I like how you have, really planned this out, especially the implementation of the search, of the chat completion, even the semantic memory. It's, for me, who doesn't have this extensive experience, it's easier for me to see, hey, I've seen what Bruno did. I can implement this in order of my project, and I will definitely follow through after this video.
Hey, let's put a pin on that and let's review that feeling at the end of the session to see if we didn't get a lot of complicated stuff. But no, I appreciate your feedback. And this is kind of I always like to try to think of these things, how I like to learn. So when we were learning this, I'm going to explain this in also easy way. So I also try to explain this, what I think in an easy way to understand. And as I said, right now, what we have in order to do the semantic search, we just need a chat service that we are going to do against Azure OpenAI with the GPT-4o mini model. And we also need the memory builder to create the vector memory database. Why? Because when we do the semantic search, we can't do the semantic search against standard databases. Standard database doesn't have yet, a lot of them are Cosmos DB, and others are implementing the semantic search, doesn't have this functionality. So what we are going to do, we are going to use another model, the ABI 002 or 003, I can't remember which one I am using here, to basically create embeddings, which are a vector representation of the data that we have, so we can later ask this question. But that's it. We want the chat to conversate with the user, and we also want an embedding to create a database in memory. Once we have this, the field product, I think, is no surprises here. This is a loop where for each one of the products that we have in the database, we are going to load the product in the memory database here with the info of the product, with the ID and more. So this is kind of an easy way to do this. And of course, if you run this in production, you need to implement some trigger mechanisms.
How are we saving it in the memory?
Yes, I'm doing it in memory because it's easy. If we have time, we can just change the implementation in example, and instead of doing in memory, we can store everything in Azure AI search, and literally the same code we will run with a huge backend. But the idea is basically, let's iterate to the product and let's save them in a vector database. And of course, if someone change one of the price, the title or something in the original database, we need to re-index the products and more. There are different strategies there. But right now, what we are going to have is the original database and the semantic and the vector database to do the semantic search. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. And the search. So we have the initialize the services, create the vector database, and then when we do a search, we basically going to say, hey, memory, perform a search using the criteria that the user added in the when you are typing in the front end. And here, oh my God, I zoomed this in a bad way. And also, this is important. We are going to validate for relevance, because when we are working with vector databases, and we ask an example, search for products to use in a rainy day, we are going to have results that are going to come there. But for each one of the results, we are also going to have information. And in this scenario, it's called the relevance. It's a value between 0 and 1 or 0 and 100. Think about this. And in this scenario, I am going to say, hey, give me the elements that if only valid is going to be valid only if the relevance is bigger than 60%. Or this is something that as a developer, we need to fine tune and adjust here and start to figure out, okay, I have this information in vector format. When I start to interact with information, I realize that my relevance is very good. So I am always going to work with 80% or more. Or in the other side, oh my God, the information is not very good. Should I use a different embeddings model? Should I work with a lower relevant threshold here and there? So the relevant is something that is specific for this scenario because, yes, we are searching, but at the same time, we want to validate that the results that we have are kind of good. And I'm quoting good. And after that, it's very simple. I have the relevance, I have the results here, and because I have one element, I am going to get that element from the original database, and I am going to return that to the user. So that's basically it. This is the only thing that we need to do to make this work. Of course, in the main program, I need to do a couple of housekeeping services and stuff, like I need to initialize the memory context, and somewhere here it needs the memory. That's it. And remember that we create a new endpoint. We have a search that do the search in keyword search. So I need to go to the front end. This is my front end product. And somewhere here also, I have the original search, which is the one not commented, and the top one, which is the one that we want to use now. So I am going to uncomment this, comment that, and I think I have everything here. Let's compile to see if I didn't forget everything else. Oh, okay, no, I forget missing. Okay, I using here. This is what we have. So this is, that this is live coding. I need to add the reference here. And now we can test the project. So we test it. What do you think? Is it going to work? Let's go for it.
Yes.
Perfect. So run the project again. We still have the product here. Let's go to search and let's search for solar like before.
Yes.
And when we run this, the response is different. Right now, we have this text saying the product solar power flashlight fits the search criteria with an 82% of the relevance. And we have the product, but the important part is if we search for something for rainy days, and we do the search, we are going to have an outdoor rain jacket here. And literally, we have rain. If I do something to, I don't know, to cook at night, in example, and I do a search, I am going to have a camping cookware.
Let's look for something for camping.
Something for camping. Okay, that's a super general one. Something for camping. And hey, there it is. We have a
Yes.
And you know what? I'm sorry, this is my Latin roots here. If I do something in Spanish, like an example, algo para alumbrar de noche, this is something to light at night, and I do a search, it's going to give me a solar flashlight. Why? These models, and can be a very, very long conversation, but these models work very, very good with different languages. They work great with popular languages, like, of course, English, because most of the info that they were training is probably in English, but Spanish, French, German, Japanese, and more, they are getting better and better. So right now, out of the box, we literally add multi-language search capabilities
So
without
Bruno,
even aiming
let
for
me quickly
multi-language.
chip this in. Repeatedly, I have been frustrated searching for something online, on e-commerce site, and I could not describe or put the name there, but I know what I want. And I will share what I want, what it can do. I've typed it repeatedly on different e-commerce sites, and I could not see that result that I want simply because maybe things like this have not been implemented. If you implement something like this, you are not just solving problem with search. You are truly meeting customers' needs timely. Because this is what I want. You are not giving me irrelevant product. You are giving me exactly what meet my needs. This is an amazing use case for AI. I love this.
Yes, and as you've seen, the code is not very complicated. It's basically create or use a vector database. In .NET, we support Quadrant, Pinecone, Azure AI Search, and more. They are all there. Choose your vector database and use a platform like Semantic Kernel or Microsoft Extension for AI or other one of the frameworks that we have there, and connect the dots, and you have a lot of value here out of the box. Like an example we see with multi-language. But there is a huge problem right now that I have here. This is a very simple code. And this is basically exposing the model to everyone. So if I go here and I say, create Python, because you said that you would type Python code to solve 2 + 2, and I do search,
no way.
I will have my model helping me to basically set numbers, num1 and 2, num2, calculate the sum results. Is going to start to do things that I don't want my model to do. I want the model right now only work with camping products. And by the way, we've seen this. I don't know if you've seen this. I've seen a couple of scenarios where companies created a chatbot or created some kind of AI integrated experience, and they don't limit the boundaries. They don't define the boundaries of what the model can do. And you can start to do things like this or say something, hey, my name is Bruno. Who are you? And I can start to ask this question that literally have no relevance with the camping product.
Exactly.
And I am an AI developed by OpenAI here to assist you. We don't want our model to do this. We want our model to be nice, of course, but we also want to put some boundaries because we connected our model with data. So we only want to model to work with data. So how we can do this? There are several ways we do this. I am going to show one. So at the beginning, when we create a chat history, we are going to define what is called a system message. And a system message is kind of a global message that is going to be embedded when we interact with the model, that is going to define.
It's like the instruction that is guiding the operations, the length and the breadth of what you should do, the do and don't, right?
Yes, and here the model that we have is, hey, you only answer questions related to camping product. If you as a model ask about something else, you say, I don't know that. And also you reply in a short and funny message because we want to have something here. But this is literally one of the things that we can and we should do when we do this because, again, we want our model to work in this specific scenario. And by the way, if you take a look, we have tons of samples in repos about how to define a good system message, how to add security on top of that, and more. And literally adding this system message to the chat history, to the history where we define how the model is going to be. Yes. Let me start this. Okay, started in this monitor this time. Started every time in a different monitor. If I go here and say, my name is Bruno, who are you? Is going to say something. I only answer questions about other camping products, but I am friendly camping product expert. What is your camping question? So we put a boundary. What do you think about that? This is an easy way to.
This looks really automagic for me and I can see the responsible aspect of that solution. It's more ethical now because you have copied what it's supposed to do. Other people cannot just use it for something else, and I must mention this recently, a popular e-commerce site where I am here integrated a new chatbot that helps people to shop better. I tell you, what you just done now happened on that chatbot, on that app. You put in, write me a Python code that can do this. The chatbot that should be answering that question literally throw up questions, answers relating to Python, relating to all those things. So I was shocked when you showcased this to me and you went into add this system message, which literally solved this problem. That became a global challenge that was broadcasted, was dragged on Twitter and somewhere else. I'm so happy because there's also a way to implement and easily control this. And sharing this with me is so awesome. I would have gone ahead and implement without understanding how important the system message is in controlling and defining the boundary and the limit and making your solution truly responsible and ethical for the purpose it was built for. Thank you for this.
Yes, and you mentioned something that is important. This is one of the mechanisms that we always suggest also to basically be compliant with the responsible AI guidelines that we have, because we know that these models are very powerful and they can be used in a good way. So we want to help everyone to use them in a good way. There are more tools. We don't have time today to go in Azure AI Studio, like the content filter and more, to focus on this, because these models are amazing and we really want to help everybody to get the best of the models. I'm talking about the best of the models. This is kind of a nice example, but we have a GPT-4o model here. And having the answer, that crappy answer that said, hey, the product ABC fits you with your criteria, we can do better. We can literally do better.
Okay, let's do better. Let's do better.
So before returning the response to the client, we are going to use a prompt that is going to say, hey, you know what? You are intelligent assistant helping the Contoso client, yada, yada, yada. Generate a catchy and friendly message using the following information. And I am going to pass to the prompt the search criteria. I am going to pass the name of the product, and then I am going to set to the model that it should include the product information in the response to the user. With that, I am going to ask the chat service to create a response, and let's use that response in the front end. So let's run this, and let's ask again whenever it's going to open. There it is in this one now. Let's ask the question, something for rainy days. Yes. And when we do the search, now the response that we have, it's kind of a nicer one. You said, hey, you got a rainy dilemma. Fair enough. The old raining jacket, it's here to save you from looking like a soggy sandwich and more. Okay, I like it. I like the response.
You know how I'm feeling, Bruno? I'm feeling that I have a companion.
Yes. And we can improve the companion. I can go here and say, you know what? Include also the product description. Description in the responses. So, and also improve the product information and description in the response user question. Let's see if my hot reload working. It haven't been working well lately. So let's go here. And if I search for something for rainy days, it's basically to say will keep you warm and dry. And we have keep you warm and dry. So it includes the description. And if I want to include also the price, in example, let's do the price in the message.
Wow.
And product information. Price and description. Let's hot reload this one again. Get back here. Refresh the search and search something for rainy days. Now we are going to have, there it is. We also include the price.
Wow.
So we are improving our prompt. As you mentioned, this can be a companion. It can really, really help us. But you know what? I don't like this developer workflow. I don't like to go here, change my prompt and do a lot of stuff here. I really like to basically, we have tools that basically help us to do this in a better way.
Oh,
One of the tools that we have,
I'm looking forward to a better way of doing this. Wow.
yes, one of the tools that we have, there it is, it's called Prompty. And Prompty is an extension for Visual Studio Code. Let me search it. There it is. It's a free extension. Hey, I'm missing the Y. It's a free extension that we have for Visual Studio Code. And basically, what it's going to allow us to do is to create a file, which is going to have Prompty extension. And then we are going to be able to basically work with our prompt, to fine-tune our prompt, make tests and more until we have a good prompt. So what I'm going to do here, this is literally our project. And I have here this Prompty file. And this file has, let me close it here.
Okay.
Has this information. First of all, we are going to define a model because we want to test the prompt. So I am going to use, in my endpoint here, I have several options here. I can work with the GPT 3.5, with the GPT-4o mini, and more. Then I'm going to add some sample. I only add one, but I can add some sample. When we add samples in order to make a prompt, we are doing something that is called a few-shot learning. We are asking a question to a model, passing the question, but also passing some samples of how we can solve the question, and the model is better there. So I will say, hey, what do you suggest for a rainy day in the beach with the product ID, product name, product description, and I will have a response somewhere here. So this is what the model is going to expect. In Prompty, I will also say, I will define the system context. Remember that we have a system context, system prompt before, and I will have here the information, the context that we have. And I have the product ID, the name, the description, and price. So I can run this directly in Visual Studio Code. And oh, I didn't find the model. No problems. Let me minimize this a little. I will open the other one, this one. I should probably miss one of the elements here. There it is. Somehow we didn't handle this the first time. But if I go here, I will have the answer here. So we'll say, hey, calling the Prompty file using this endpoint, and I have the response. And I can start to play around with the prompt directly here. And I can say something like, in example, incorporate the question if provider, always incorporate the product price, the product name, description, and price in the response. So I can run my prompt again. And there it is, somewhere here. It's a very long prompt. I should probably say, make it shorter, but we have the price here and something else. And hey, I can play with my prompt whenever I want. Instead of starting my application, go to the front end, make some changes, go to the code, I can do my prompt here. And what I like about this is that at the end, I can say with the Prompty file, add semantic kernel code, add line change, add prompt flow. Wow. There are different integrations. So I can basically use Prompty almost everywhere. That's why I have here the Prompty file. This is the same file that we've seen before.
Yes.
And what I am going to do is let me copy here because I have here my code. I am going to remove this improve that we added before, and let's improve the response message in a very similar way where we are going to define an array of arguments with the product ID, name, description, and more. And then we are going to say, hey, create the Prompty file function and then invoke the function. Oh. So this is literally what we've seen before, running here in a very easy way.
Now, so my question to you is, will the Promptify prompt, will it be the same every time this is running, or is going to be different?
Yes, it's going to be the same. And that's a great question. When we were talking with other people in the .NET team and other clients that are using this, I think there are already public somewhere in the blog or in the Microsoft Learn strategies where you can basically have a cache of the Prompty file so you don't have to do it again and again. Semantic kernel also can import functions and leave the functions in memory, so you don't need to load it again and again. But yes, it's always the same file, and we advise for production scenarios that there is a lot of stuff that we can do here to do better, like cache, tracing, logging, and more. which is basically what we are going to see right now. But hey, what do you think so far? Does this make sense?
100%. Because, we started from really simple, like you mentioned. It is not complex, but it's more functional. And that's the goal. How can we leverage AI to make this serve more purpose, become more better, up to the point of even building a companion? And I mean it when I say companion, because when I'm searching and I'm getting results, it's just like a one-way communication. But when I have this kind of engagement, this kind of text, returning back to me, trying to, describe the scenario that I'm in, and also making sure that, hey, I know your needs, and that is why I'm recommending this for you that meets your needs. That's more awesome.
Yes, and hey, the next step here will be, once we add everything that we talk about AI in example, which is very simple semantic search, but it's also a very powerful one, is I will advise, like you mentioned before, okay, how do I trace this? How do I add some cache here and there? How do I orchestrate this? And this is where .NET Aspire come here to help. .NET Aspire is a set of libraries, it's a framework that we have, which basically help us to do and develop solutions in a good way. So the whole idea that I have right now is this is the same project,
Yes.
the same solution that we had before, where we have the back end and the front end. And then we have two more projects. We have an Aspire host, which is kind of the main orchestrator. And then we have a service default. We have a lot of functionalities here and there. But the host is going to define this code. It's going to say, hey, you know what?
Got you here, Bruno. Okay, what you're describing now, do you mean completely operationalizing this project and making it scalable? Is that what this is trying to do for us?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and the idea is that when we do Aspire, we are going to see that we have out of the box a lot of functionalities like traceability and more, which will really, really help when we are doing AI solutions.
Yes.
Like an example, we have a product that is going to be added to the builder pipeline. Then we add a store that is going to be added to the builder pipeline. The store will have a reference to the products. So we start to say, hey, these two are connected. These two are connected via HTTP. So now they know how to connect to each other. I am using OpenAI services in just one part. If I use OpenAI services in more parts, what I can do is I can define a general component or service here in Aspire, and then I can start to use it all around. And when I run this project with Aspire, this is what we are going to have. We are going to have this dashboard where we are going to see that we have the project store, the backend. I can click on the backend, and by default, it gives me the list of products. I am going to see the front end where I'm going to see the same functionality. I have the list of products and I have search, something for rainy days. I always do this because it's the first one in my autocomplete, but it's going to run and do everything. And I have this. But what I like about this is here, I can go and start to see traces in the console. So I can go to the products backend and I start to see, oh my God, this is all of the logs in the console where we even have the queries that we are performing against the database. And we can go to the traces and we can start to see, in example, this one, where let's take a look, the detailed one, this one, where we see that the front end call the back end and the back end called twice the Azure services. And why? Let's take a look at the first service. So the first service is the embeddings one, because when we do a query, the text that we add in the search is something for rainy days, need to be converted to an embedding. So internally, it's converting that text to a vector. Once it performs the query in memory and return all of the values, the next step will be to use our prompty to generate a cool prompt. So this call, the second call, is a call for the GPT-4o mini project. So where we are creating the one. So we can start to see here in Aspire tons of stuff, literally tons of stuff that are making our life easier, are making our life as a developer easier. I can start to see traces, logs, console, and more. And by the way, even if we are doing Aspire with .NET, you can even use some pieces of Aspire with other programming languages. What do you think about this?
You mean I can use with other programming languages?
Yes. The whole idea to have Aspire, there are so many things in Aspire, but we have the orchestration, we have the dashboard, we have traces, login, we can monitorize, we can even deploy with Aspire. It's a whole different story. But yes, you can use it with other products if you want, with other languages if you want.
What you just showed me helps me understand the concept of explainability better, because initially we're working on something, we're building something useful, helpful, but there's less of what we can explain around what is happening, and we can trace and we can monitor. But superimposing Aspire on top of it right now just shows how really explainable your solution becomes. With this dashboard now, you see much more into what is going. You check many things. You can provide more information and explain better. And I think we shouldn't build a solution without having good explanation for activities and things that are happening around them. And this is a good way for developer to truly have this oversight as to, this is what is happening around the solution. This is how long it's running. It has closed now. This is the number. For example, this right here is amazing. I see how the embedding, is done now, and I see how it's also calling GPT-4o just to retrieve and for the prompting. This is amazing.
Yes. So with all of this this is probably going to be the last 5 minutes or more. I am going to go back to the traffic jam analyzer. Remember that we started here with all of the cameras and the solution.
Yes.
So my friend Emiliano, what he has in mind, it's basically, he created a solution in Aspire. And this is the Aspire code of the solution. So let me zoom this a little. So we start adding a database. So Aspire will manage and provision a SQL database here. And then he created a couple of services. He creates an API service, an AI service, because he picks each one of the frames of the cameras and using AI analyze the frame. He created also a scrap service, which is the one that go to the whole camera websites and pick all of the camera frames. A worker service, which is literally a worker running, I think it's every minute or every 5 minutes to get the camera state, analyze and save this. And somewhere here is also going to be the front end, which is the one. All of these have the reference between each other. So the front end knows how to call the scrap service and the API server. The worker use everything here, use the API, the AI, the scrap. If we take a look at the AI in example, it's very simple. This is what we've seen before, but using images here. So he's going to create a chat service using a GPT-4o model. One interesting thing about the GPT-4 models, the GPT-4o models, is that they also support images. So you can text an image and send images, and they're going to analyze the images and describe. So he's going to create a chat service using the GPT-4, and he gets an endpoint /analyze/identifier where he's going to basically use this prompt. Say, I am going to show you an image that has a CCTV that shows a road, and I need you to give me a JSON object with 3 elements: title, traffic, and date. And the title is going to be, if we go back here to the cameras, the title is going to come from the top left part of the image. The date is going to come from the bottom right corner with the date. And the traffic, that's the magic part. The model will be smart enough to analyze the traffic here. Wow. So he defined this in the prompt and then create a collection of items where he's going to send to he's going to send to the chat the prompt and the URL of the image. Remember when he did the scrap, he picked all of the passes here. Yes. And then that's it. This is going to say, hey, chat, process this. And with this, let's put a breakpoint here. We are going to have the information in JSON format. And by the way, there is more pieces here because he has a front end in Blazor. They also have the scrapper, which basically open everything. But hey, this is a huge, this is a bigger Aspire. Yes. But at the same time, what we have here are the different services: AI, API, scrap, front end. So
worker, database. Wow.
Yes, if we open the front end and we start to see the cameras, this is the cameras that we have. We can take a look at the latest photo of the camera here that it is. I see that the project stopped here, so it performed the analysis, and I have here my content with the JSON file, with the title of the camera, a value between 0 and 100. I think 100 is bad. It's a lot of traffic.
There's no traffic right now. Yeah.
Yes. And I have here the date. We can even check. Let me see if we can check the image, URL. So let's open the image to have an idea of what we have. And let me remove this and keep this working. Otherwise, we are going to start to have a lot of timeout issues. But if I open this camera,
wow.
Okay, so this is no traffic or low traffic.
Yes.
By the way, if night, back in Tenerife right now, it's 7 p.m. But we have everything here. And if I go back here and refresh this, I will start to see the status, everything here. And of course, if I go here to the console, to the AI service, I am going to start to see the full prompt that we send for the image and even the content that we receive from there.
Yes.
So,
quick question.
Yes.
This prompt is there any way to manage and also probably monitor and observe any abnormalities or anomalies in the prompt,
Yes, we talk about that. We talk about a couple of improvements to the solution for the next step. The first one will be once we start to have an historical set of data of the cameras, if we start to save this that we have right now, everything is stored in Docker. This is the database that we have created 2 minutes ago. So there it is, my Docker, my SQL Server in Docker. So we can quickly create, a prediction model that is going to detect anomalies, or we can do prediction. I can ask questions like, an example, how busy is this camera, the 3M TV14, on Wednesday night? And we can have someone asking question and doing the prediction there. And at the same time, and this is the tricky part, I should be able to improve my prompt. The prompt right now is very simple. I mean, it's not very simple, but we can do better in the prompt. I have the feeling that we can, that we can improve a couple of things, but it works.
Prompting can help.
Prompting can help here, yes, but it works. Right now it works. And an example, I just realized that we have a typo there. It should be amount. We miss an N there. Hey, non-English speaker. I understand, my friends. And we have this, but what the whole idea right now is to show that, hey, we have this. If we go here to the traces, we are going to say, we have a couple of worker errors I like about this Aspire. What's happening here? Why we have an error? Probably because I had an endpoint. I have a breakpoint.
Yes.
The service was trying to process, and I stopped in there showing the code. But we can see everything here. And by the way, I think this error is not for the endpoint. I think we get to the point that, yes, there it is. I am using a lot my Azure AI, my Azure OpenAI model. So saying that, hey, in this sample scenario that you have, please wait every 2 seconds to make requests, because it's literally hitting super fast right now to get the information from the cameras. So I should probably put something here or request more quota. But you know what? Everything is here. I can start from here, make a couple of clicks, take a look, and get everything out of the box.
It's easier to debug and find issues.
Yes, everything in a very simple way. And this is the high-level overview of everything that we have.
Wow.
So, before we close, what do you think about this?
To be very honest, first, my first thought is first a traditional .NET project. The flexibility, it's easier than before to incorporate AI into existing .NET project, like we started with. We could see how much enhancement this brought into the solution. First, we were doing the normal search. It could not understand us. We are trying to understand the way it searched. And leveraging AI now, we saw how easy it becomes for it to understand us. And we see how we can fine-tune and the kind of flexibility and power we have. we could even determine the threshold, in terms of relevance. How relevant should this be? So whenever you are meeting my needs, see how Aspire superimpose, make it easier to truly, build something more scalable and operationalize the solution. To be very honest, there's no best time to be a .NET developer with AI than now. Because I'm like, hey, I think this is the right time now for me to truly learn these things. The tools that are available, the prompting, you just showed me that it is possible because the resources are there, the tools are there. I do not know of the prompting like the way you just showed me now. The Aspire, I've never, come across the Aspire, or I have heard it, but to see it in action and see how much value it brings to existing project just makes a lot of sense to me now. So I really appreciate this.
Hey, yes, and I really appreciate the feedback, and I really appreciate that we get all of the points together. And I also wanted to close with something else besides the eShop, because the eShop is kind of a showcase of what we can do, adding Aspire, semantic kernel. But the traffic cam is a bigger scenario, it's a real scenario, it's an open source scenario. All of the resources are going to be available to download and to check later. And hey, I really, really like it. And I just want to close, let me go here with the close slide, saying thanks to everyone who are here. Really, I hope that you enjoy all day. This is a day created for you as students learning net and learning more. We have tons of sessions. And a biggest thanks to my friend Ola. It's been a while since we chat, and I am super happy to be with you here, my friend.
Personally, it's a learning process, and I'm a Learn Student Ambassador, and this session also helps me to learn and see in action. Like you mentioned, one of the best ways to actually learn is to see. For me, when I see it being done, it just creates that possibility is possible. And I have to just go back to resources. Then that will lead me to my next question for you. If I want to pick up these things today, what are the resources? Where will you point me to build on top of what we have done here today?
We are literally sharing everything right now in the chat and in the main pages and everything that we have in the .NET Conf for student zones, where you can download the eShop sample, the traffic camera sample, and more stuff. So, hey, that's a great question, Ola.
I'm sure I'm asking this question for as many others who are watching right now. Like, hey, Bruno, this is amazing. Where should I start from? Give me the link and I will go right there. I'm happy. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, there they are. And hey, once again, it's a pleasure to be here. Please, everyone, enjoy the rest of the day. And Ola, see you next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, what an amazing session. Pablo, what did you think?
That was incredible, folks. You can see how Aspire and AI can combine together to do an easy way to learn anything that you want with AI. The good thing about Aspire is that it can do incredible things. Even you can trace your own errors. Yeah, that's amazing. You can see even how AI development can be very eased up with Aspire. So folks, remember, it's not just AI. AI needs, a good product fit. And Aspire can be a way to ease up your any concerns with AI. So take a look on Aspire and take a look on everything I have on Azure. Azure is your full solution for cloud, and let us know. We have this whole comment session, and you can ask us a little bit about Aspire. But Katie, our techno sessions are unfortunately over, and now will be our career sessions.
And these are the ones that I was particularly excited about. Of course, I love our technical sessions, but I want to give everyone here as much advice as we can. So we're kicking it off really strong with Rubal, who is an early in profession recruiter here at Microsoft. And he's going to be giving you all some great advice around your future or current career journey. So I'll pass it off to him.
Let's go.
Hi, welcome to the student career learning session today. My name is Rubal Verdi. I am one of the early in profession recruiters here at Microsoft. And hopefully you find this session helpful today. I'll be offering some advice. I'll be offering some just overall FAQs about roles, about Microsoft, and just overall advice that can help you in your career. So a little bit about myself. I joined Microsoft in 2020. I really wanted to continue to grow my career personally, and the mission that Microsoft has really aligned to what I was looking for. Overall, I wanted to continue to use my background in recruiting and HR to help Microsoft as a whole grow, and even myself. I wanted to grow as a person. Couple fun facts about myself. I love traveling. I enjoy new cultures and just learning. So what is Microsoft all about? We're all about empowering every individual and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Here's a couple fun facts about Microsoft, and I won't go through each one of them, but as you can see, Microsoft works at such a large scale. So why are we here? Well, as I mentioned, we're here to empower every individual and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Through the work that we do allows us to reach communities and reach ultimately the entire planet. How do we work? So we definitely promote a good growth mindset. We look to problem solve our customers' need. We look for ways to make an impact. We operate as a one Microsoft team and one diverse team. We're committed to making a positive social impact. And what do we do? Well, as many are familiar with Microsoft, there's a wide variety of organizations within Microsoft. So whether that's the engineering org or the business org or whatever else you may think of, a lot of our opportunities lie at our career site on Microsoft. So we're looking for passionate individuals to join Microsoft. And lastly, I can't emphasize this enough, we look for your mindset over your grades. So it's not just about your grades. We look at the type of candidates that are coming through and the type of individuals that are interviewing and what their mindset is towards just overall growth. I know I mentioned a lot about growth mindset, but this is definitely one of the crucial things that we look at within Microsoft. So as you look to interview with Microsoft, as you look to start your application process, this is something you definitely want to keep in mind and throughout the entire process. Here's a couple things to keep in mind as you think of growth mindset. I won't go through each one of these, but I'll just kind of pause for a second and call out, for example, being open to new ideas, being open to adapting is a key thing, I would say, overall here at Microsoft. The other thing we look for is being customer obsessed. We look for ways to serve our customers. We look for ways, how can we empower our customers? What are some things that our customers are looking for that we currently don't provide as a company? So whether this is a very small thing that we can look at as a whole, as a company, or in the daily work that our engineers or other teams do. We definitely take a one Microsoft approach. So we want to operate as a one company, not individualistically. Here's a couple of things to keep in mind as you go through the application process, the interview process, communicating, collaboration, just your motivation overall as a candidate. And we have a huge focus on being a diverse and inclusive company as we look to reach parts of the world that may not have been reached before. So we want them to be included in the products that we build and what we develop. A couple fun facts about Microsoft overall. Here's just a little breakdown of a couple different business groups that you would come across at Microsoft. So as you look to apply, here's a couple of the groups. Keep in mind, this isn't a comprehensive list. And specifically, here are the engineering pathways for full-time opportunities. The next slide will have a list of opportunities or kind of the breakdown for internships as well. So this is one thing to look at when you look at roles. There's going to be a variety of roles on our career site. but here's just the overall breakdown. And the next slide will have our internship opportunities. So there are a variety of internship opportunities. I would say bulk of our internships are for the software engineering roles, but that doesn't mean we don't have other opportunities available across the board. The best place to look out for internships or full-time roles is going to be our career site. So our career site is going to have the most up-to-date comprehensive list of what we have available currently. And typically, I will say for specifically our internships, they go live early to midsummer. So I would say about August, September is when our internships go live on our career site. The best way to see what roles are live or to get alerts is to really just ultimately create a career profile on our career site and set up alerts. So once you set up alerts, you will get automated emails that let you know when new roles become open. So let's kind of get into the meaty aspect of just overall applying to Microsoft and overall what you can expect. So as you look to apply to Microsoft, be sure to prepare your resume, really craft it towards the role that you're applying for. So look at the job description of the role, look at what are the qualifications for that role, what are we looking for overall, and really tailor your resume that way. And I would say also your LinkedIn profile as well. So if you have a LinkedIn profile, be sure to keep that consistent with your resume. Oftentimes I see LinkedIn, if you have your LinkedIn profile linked within your resume and it's out of date, it creates a bit of inconsistency as a recruiter. So I would say prior to applying, be sure that everything is up to date and everything is consistent across LinkedIn and your resume. That it would be kind of my top tip, I would say, to keep in mind as you look at your resume and as you go through crafting that resume. The other piece to keep in mind with the resume is think of your resume as a growing document. As you gain more experience, feel free to update your resume accordingly. On our career site, you are able to go in there and update your resume even after you've applied for the role. So don't think once you've applied for the role, you can't go in and update your resume. You can very much so go on the career site, update your career profile with your latest resume. Now, one of the things I get asked is, how can I stand out as a student on my resume? I would say overall, the best thing to do is put down any relevant experience that you have. So whether you've joined clubs, whether you're part of hackathons, whether you're working on specific projects or any past internships that really align to the role that you're looking to get towards, any of your projects where you've learned and grown, where you can display collaboration or ownership skills, or how you may have started in that project in the beginning where you may not have known a certain technology or have learned about a certain technology. And by the end of it, speak to what you've learned. So in your resume, really display, here's how the project started, here's how it ended. What were your takeaways? What are some things that you learned from that? The more you can storytell in your resume, the better you'll be able to stand out overall across, other candidates applying as well. If you don't have a specific experience or specific skills, oftentimes students ask me, well, I don't have this experience. I don't have experience in a specific project. One of the best things to do is to get involved with your college. Ask your professors, ask mentors, how can you gain that relevant skill that you're looking for? How can you gain that collaboration skill and that ownership piece, or just even the technical components that you're trying to learn overall? That would be my biggest advice is, if you don't have a specific skill, go out and figure out how you can learn that, whether it's different projects or joining clubs, etc. That would be kind of my biggest advice is don't stop learning. Don't stop growing. Continue to do that. Once your resume is crafted and your LinkedIn is up to date and everything is consistent across both the resume and LinkedIn, now you would go ahead and apply on the career site. So keep in mind, we cannot consider you as a candidate until you have applied for a role. So a lot of times I'll have students reach out on LinkedIn and they'll say, well, hey, I reached out. Why wasn't I considered for this role? Well, technically, to be considered for a role, you do have to apply on our career site. Even if you have chatted with a recruiter, whether it's on LinkedIn or at conferences or at other spots, that would be one of the huge things that I often get from candidates is, well, I reached out to this recruiter, but I never applied. Well, there's no way for us to consider you given that you didn't apply for the role. So keep that in mind as you apply for the role. Now, overall, we do ask for about 90 days from candidate applying for a role to be evaluated accordingly for our application. And that's specifically due to just the sheer volume of candidates that we get. We get thousands and thousands of applicants per role. So in order to go through those applicants, we do need essentially that 90 days to have a good kind of comprehensive overview of what we can do from there. So overall for interviews, I would say for internships, there are 2 interview invites that you would get. So basically you'd have 2 folks that interview you, and for a full-time role, it could be anywhere between 2 to 4. So typically I would say I've seen 3, I've seen 4. It really depends on the role. And then once you've gone through the interviews, the final round interviews, you would get an offer. Now that this can take up to 4 weeks overall. So during the interviews, one of the best things to do, I would say, is look at the growth mindset, look at collaboration, look at ownership. A lot of this information is on our career site that you can look at. And from there, what you can do is really kind of prepare for your interview. The best advice I can give for interview preparation that I've seen is practice those technical skills. The more you can practice those technical skills, the better off you'll do in interviews. Ask clarifying questions during those interviews. If you're given a problem, don't just immediately start solving the problem. Ask for clarifying questions around what you're solving for. If you get stuck, ask for hints or tips. This really shows that you're willing to not just sit there and be stuck, but you're willing to collaborate with the interviewer and you're willing to go through and problem solve. Overall, the other tips I would give for interviewing is the more you can practice, the better off you'll be, not just the technical pieces, but also your soft skills. So talk out loud, practice your interviewing, practice those collaboration questions that you might get. And the more you can do that, the better off you'll be. And the last final advice I would have overall for any candidates is think of this as something that you're growing constantly. It's not like you're going to interview once and you won't interview again. You're going to interview again in the future for other roles, whether you're transferring within a company or you're applying for other tech roles across the board. The more you can continue to grow, the more you can continue to practice, the better it'll be. I hope this advice helps. Please note that this isn't a comprehensive overall advice to guarantee a role at Microsoft, but these are just general tips that I've seen having reached out to candidates, having interviewed candidates, having recruited candidates for the last 6 years. So with all of that being said, I hope this helps. I hope you continue to grow in your journey, and best of luck.
Rubal, that was so amazing. Thank you so much for all of those amazing tips. Next up, I get the chance to interview a .NET hiring manager, Jeff Schwartz. So let's get into it. Awesome. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Doing great. How about yourself, Katie?
Doing pretty good. It's a nice sunny day out here, but even more than the weather, I'm excited to talk to you about your experience as a .NET hiring manager and really learn from you throughout this session.
Great.
So just to kick things off before I get into my list of questions here, could you give me a bit of an introduction as to your role, what you do, as well as your experience as a hiring manager?
Absolutely. Right. So my name is Jeff Schwartz, as you mentioned, Katie. I'm currently a software engineering manager at Microsoft. But before I got there, I graduated from University of Texas at Austin. So go Longhorns. And that's back in the old Taylor building as opposed to those new fancy buildings that we have now. Then right out of school, moved up to Washington to join Microsoft here in the Redmond area. Outside of work, love the outdoors. Love to, we're so close to the ocean, so close to the mountains, love swimming, kayaking, always a wetsuit because it's really cold in the ocean. Love hiking up in the mountains. And then as far as my role at Microsoft, so I've been here just a little bit over 22 years. I'm the engineering manager for the .NET runtime. So that's the core virtual machine that powers C#. That's the garbage collector, type system, code generators. And for the 22 years, I think about 15 years, I've been a people manager, which means I've been a hiring manager for that amount of time. And for about 12 of those years, I've been what's called an as appropriate or a decision maker on interview loops.
Okay, interesting. So first off, you gave me a lot of information to work with. So you mentioned your 22-year tenure here. Have you been using C# and .NET that whole time?
That's a really funny question. So I've been on the runtime in various capacities my entire career. I was a tester for a while. I was a customer advocate. I looked at the data aspects of .NET. And then for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been in the engineering role on the .NET runtime team. The reason I find that question funny is for the first 2 years or so, I was only MSIL. I was way down in the bowels of the runtime. But for majority of the 22 years, yes, a lot of C#, VB, F#, all the .NET languages.
Okay, interesting. So a little bit all over the place, but to get into kind of your experience as a hiring manager, you mentioned you've been doing it for 15 years. So I'm sure the process has changed a lot. But can you describe kind of specifically what types of candidates you're hiring? Do you hire early in career, later, across the board? Is it mainly for a specific type of role, or can you get into that a bit?
Absolutely. So I'm very passionate about interviewing, and I do it as much as my calendar will allow me. And there are lots of different kinds of events at Microsoft. We definitely have what we call early in profession, which is kind of the first year either at a university or your second career. That's kind of that early. And we do events, and I've been participating in those. We have what we call industry hiring, which is more specific for a very particular role, like a role on my team or a role kind of in a .NET group across Microsoft. And then we have specific events at Microsoft for various groups of like going to conferences and, Grace Hopper or et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of different ways to be considered for a role at Microsoft.
Okay. I think I'm kind of guessing here based on who this event is for that we're going to get a lot of folks in that first early in profession bucket,
right.
Which is awesome. So I'm wondering, what does the hiring process, what can somebody expect when they go into that? And I will kind of caveat this, give a little disclaimer. This is based on Jeff's experience as somebody hiring at Microsoft. So this may differ company to company, year to year, but I just wanted to get a general rundown of what that looks like.
That's really great. And actually, I'll tell a quick personal story because as I mentioned, I actually came right out of college to Microsoft. And so the process is fairly similar to what it was 20 odd years ago when I went through it. For me personally, I was at a recruiting event for ACM. I have a bachelor's in computer science. And at that event, it was like a breakfast. I ended up handing my resume, presumably to a recruiter or an engineer at Microsoft. And then I had an on-campus screening where I went through technical questions. And then I flew out and had a full-time interview. And then I got the offer. And so it's a very similar process that you would expect. These days, probably you're applying to the rec. We have various ones open, remote only, US, across the world. And then from there are recruiters that would end up screening resumes. You get a call just to make sure kind of logistics work out. Most interviews now are virtual. So you get to do it in your own house. You get to actually use a real editor for code questions and no longer have to do it on the whiteboard, which is great. And then the process there, you probably meet two to four interviewers. The great thing about Microsoft is that we actually make decisions same day coming out of those. And then the candidates, as a candidate, you probably find out within about a week or two.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely reflects. I had a very similar experience starting as a university intern. And I remember going through those steps. I did it virtually. Actually, when I did it, I was in Notebook. So it was a little kooky, but it was a very interesting process. So it's cool that it's kind of remained similar. So being on the hiring side, where in that process do you come into play?
That's a really good point. So I have been involved in all the parts. So like to a limited extent on the sourcing side, as I mentioned, definitely screening resumes, interviewing. As I mentioned, I definitely enjoy doing that. And my role as an as appropriate or a decision maker help to drive the debrief process, which is where you get to have multiple opinions in the room to make sure we're making good hires. And then all the way through being a business contact, which is if you're, get extended an offer, you have one of the engineers or a member of Microsoft that is then part of your process to answer questions, be there for you as you start to get closer to making a decision, and then eventually when you get closer to your start date. So I've been kind of in part of all the process of hiring.
Oh, wow. And to the extent you're able to share, I know I always hear a lot of questions about kind of what am I expected to know and show off during this process? Do I need to know a specific language or technology, or are there certain other skills I should be prepared to showcase? Can you talk through that a bit?
Absolutely. It's a strength of Microsoft that we do core competency based hiring. And so core competencies could be like technical excellence or customer focus or adaptability. And there are a set of questions and guidance that we have about helping to assess candidates based on that. And as I mentioned in my role as AA, we're trying to help make sure that there's a fairly level or an equal footing as far as how to evaluate these things. But then at the same time, we also have the creativity and a lot of people are involved in the interviewing process. And so for me personally, I can answer my expectations of specific things that people need to have in interviews, but it'll vary slightly, depending on who you get to meet, kind of the role that perhaps you're going for. But there are very few specific things that I expect from an interview in a candidate when we get to meet them. I mean, definitely have to pick a language, and it does not have to be a .NET language to be going for a .NET role, but you have to be able to express your ideas in code. And so, every once in a while, you may kind of find that there's, on the technical side, questions that are, well suited for a particular data type or an algorithm. So definitely worthwhile to brush up on, how tree traversals work and, common things that you may see in computer science. But generally speaking, the thing that we're looking for is, candidates to ask really good questions, have a collaborative nature. So you could be presented with a problem and perhaps the interviewer will provide some context and you ask some questions, they ask a little more context, and you start building and you're actually building together. And so there's no specific thing necessary often to answer those kind of questions. And the other thing to keep in mind is, particularly on the technical side, 45-minute interview is pretty typical. And so really the technical question is only 20 minutes. And so the kind of questions that we ask should be understandable and solvable in that time frame. So there's no tricks. In general, there's multiple solutions. And so as long as you're kind of taking the guide of the interviewer, I think that can kind of be solved that way.
Wow, I'm really interested in your answer because I feel like that kind of differs from my impression and things I hear among early in profession folks. Like they're very worried about the technical pieces. And I remember when I was going through that process, it wasn't communicated to me that it is a collaborative process and it's okay to ask questions. And in fact, it sounds like that's something you would encourage.
It's actually expected. Oftentimes questions will be presented in a very ambiguous way. And without questions, you would either solve the wrong problem or you would be stuck.
Yeah.
And so you have to ask.
Yeah, I'm wondering. So based on that, we're also going to be talking to an early in profession person as well. So I'll definitely be getting some insights from her about this. But do you have any recommendations for how candidates should prepare for these types of interviews?
Yeah, that's a really good one. And particularly, there are really two kinds of questions that we ask in interviews. I'm focusing a little bit on the technical side as an engineer, but hopefully a little bit later we can talk a little bit about the more competency-based ones as well. But as I mentioned, with the technical side, clearly, brushing up on, the core algorithms, data structures, always useful because it helps you ask the right questions to the interviewer. Like I said, there's no particular thing that I would expect. But if you get asked a question, that has like a graph or something else, a tree structure, and you may not be as brushed up or familiar with like a depth first search, it would help kind of give you the right kind of insight that you should go after. But I have a couple, high level things that I would recommend to all candidates. And often I will tell kind of candidates as I'm interviewing the following. So it's not like a secret, because the interviewer and the candidate want the same thing. We want everyone to be successful, and we want to see people in their best light. So a couple things, particularly for technical questions, really nailing the details, getting that attention to detail and demonstrating that you can connect the dots and flow and track all of the necessary details of the technical problem from start to finish, super important. Breaking down the larger problem into smaller problems and solving them individually and then bringing it back together. Good validation at the end. Not only demonstrating that you can solve a problem, but you have the kind of creativity of like how to make sure you find all the corners. I mentioned asking lots of really good questions, super important. And then also, it's a different style thing, but talking through as you're thinking is super important. And it's totally okay to tell the interviewer, like, I just need a minute to think. That's okay. But try to avoid those kind of quiet periods where the interviewer can't quite track what you're doing because they can't help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a super important one because, you can be working away at this quote unquote whiteboard problem, but if the interviewer doesn't know what's going on, then they can't properly assess how it's going.
That's right.
Yeah. So before I get into the core competencies, one other question that has kind of been burning in my mind is, especially with regards to technical pieces, what other things do you look for either in someone's resume or maybe portfolio that would help them be kind of a successful candidate in your mind?
Yeah, that's a really good one. Resumes for me, I love looking at resumes to go find questions. They're like hooks. And so I don't have like a specific set of things. I mean, clearly it's not like a school, it's not a GPA, it's not a language that it's not a class that you took. It's a hook so that I can ask a question. And so offering things on there that you want to talk about, that you have some depth to, maybe it demonstrated like a learning that you've now applied in somewhere else. Those are the kind of things that I look at resumes for. It's like kind of a good conversation starter.
Yeah. I kind of remember in my time looking for jobs, I used to go through this exercise where I would kind of do what you're describing. I would go through my resume and think of kind of the top points that I would want to talk about associated with each of those items.
Perfect. That's great. That's good prep.
Glad I would be a good candidate.
Already higher.
So getting kind of into the I think you call them core concept side of things.
They're core competencies. That's right.
Competencies. Can you talk through that a little more with me and describe what that is and what you look for?
Absolutely. This is, and being an engineer, this is kind of often referred to as like the soft skill questions. Like, do we ask soft skill questions? We do. And, examples, again, of core competencies that we use at Microsoft are like collaboration, drive for results, adaptability. And there are a set of criteria that, we as Microsoft think are necessary to be an effective engineer and or, employee at Microsoft. And back to the piece we were talking about with being collaborative in an interview, like it is very rare that you get asked to do a problem and you're told you can't talk to anybody. Just go figure it out. Like there's a whiteboard, just go figure it out. So that collaborative piece is actually really important. Like demonstrating that, not only can you ask good questions to help decompose the problem, but when presented with a conversation, either a hint or, just talking it through, that you've stopped, you reflected, you heard what they said, and you can demonstrate that you're building on ideas of other people is actually really important. So that was kind of a really concrete example. But there could be other ones, like an example of one looking for adaptability could be, walk me through a time, when you had a conflict with a teammate, how did you resolve it? And it just helps to show kind of the depth and how you think about problems, and kind of, from a past experience, you can tell a story. And just a couple, pieces of advice there. Oftentimes we think of interviews as being like the interview gets to ask all the questions. And so they have kind of, in essence, have driven the conversation. But I look at it almost as a partnership, because not only does the interview get to ask the question, but the candidate then gets to choose what they say. And I love it when you answer one of these soft skill questions by answering the question, for sure. Back to tell me a time where you had a teammate that was a challenge. But you can choose the story and you can add something that's like a hook for the next question. That may be the thing that the interviewer really finds exciting. You could say, yeah, we were partnering on this thing, and through this conflict, I actually found out that their passion area was somewhere else, and we ended up building a club together. Like, wow, not only did you have a problem, you showed how you demonstrated it, but now you've given me this other thing that I should ask a question about. And so you get to choose kind of the stories you tell with those kind of things in mind. You can kind of help them build the story that you want to tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Like, how can you kind of work with your interviewer to not just answer their questions, but also talk about what you want to talk about and thinks highlights the best kind of parts of you. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I have a similar kind of a couple, pieces of advice to give people when they're answering soft questions.
Ooh, please.
Right. So the big one, there's a couple of big ones. There's only, I guess, 3, but they're fairly large. Definitely balance concise versus verbose. There is a too much when you're answering these kind of questions, because it's a pretty limited amount of time, but there's also a too little. Always start with the story and the context before getting to the specific. You have to kind of set up the story so that the interviewer can follow along. And then the last one's probably the most important. When telling stories, particularly about teams, be very specific and intentional about we's versus I's. Like, we did things, which is great. And I think we should be collaborative and demonstrate team. But then very specifically point out the part that you contributed, because that's kind of what the interviewer wants to know, both the parts that you did, but then also the parts that you did together.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great piece of advice. I wish I had heard that before all of my interviews back in the day. So we're quickly coming towards the end of our time. So I have one more question for you, and then I'd love to open it up to what I may have missed. But first, I did get this question actually from one of our Microsoft student ambassadors, and they mentioned that they're having a bit of uncertainty about future software engineering jobs and what expectations they are going to be put upon them, basically. So I'm wondering, what expectations do you have of somebody who's a early in profession engineer joining your team?
It's a really good question. I mean, we are sitting at the precipice of AI generative technology. Clearly, these models can write code pretty proficiently, and they can debug code. And there's going to be a lot of really interesting creative growth, and particularly for Microsoft. I think we're on the forefront of writing the tools that do that kind of work. And so I think, if I look at one subtext of that question of do I have a job, 5-10 years from now? I think the answer is yes. There will always be a place for, highly skilled humans to be in this loop, either building the tools that leverage these kind of models, or just the kind of work isn't well suited for that. And then the other part of the question of what do I expect? Any new hire that comes in, particularly early in profession, they have a couple people at least that are really there as their advocates. Their manager, asking questions, making sure that the manager is aware of kind of where they're at, how they're thinking, and then we always offer an onboarding buddy. And that's the person that if you're not talking to them every day, you're probably not doing something right. You really should overload them with just all the questions, make sure you remain unblocked to keep going. And a lot of the spaces are, big and complex, like the kind of problems that we solve at Microsoft are definitely super important. So they're not something that you can pick up overnight. 6-12 months to get ramped up on a team is not atypical. And we afford you time to learn on the job, start off small projects to get to the larger piece as you go. So it's affording time, lots of people to support you.
Mm-hmm. That totally makes sense. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for answering all of my questions. Before we end the session, I just want to open it up and see, is there anything I missed or any advice you'd like to give to someone who's early in profession, maybe starting to go through these processes?
Sure. Yeah, maybe a couple things. Once you successfully got through the interviewing process, definitely make sure that you're involving the people around you, because everyone wants you to be successful. So like you have to kind of let people in enough so that they understand what you're thinking about, what you're going. It's probably my best advice. Going into the interviewing process, kind of two big things. Nerves are clearly part of it. But as I mentioned, it should be a collaborative partnership. And so the interviewer and you as the candidate would want to see at your best. And so anything you could do to kind of calm those nerves, it works. It's okay to let the interviewer know, like, maybe this is your first interview ever. And like, I've had many candidates tell me, like, this is my first big business interview. And, and I'll ask, is there something I can do to help calm the nerves? Maybe just take a minute, a little breathing, and that's okay. We're all human, and like I said, we want to see everyone at their best. And so just ask lots of good questions and be collaborative.
I love that. Yeah, I think nobody wants to have a gotcha. Like nobody's looking to embarrass you. Feel free to be open about how you're feeling, and we really want you to be successful. So with that, Jeff, thank you so much. I learned a lot. I'm sure the people watching have learned a lot as well, and I really appreciate your time.
You betcha. Thanks so much, Katie.
Of course. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and pass it off to the next one. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Wow. I know I learned a bunch from my conversation with Jeff. I hope you all did as well. Next up, I'm also super excited because I'm going to be talking with Mikelle, who is an early in profession developer here at Microsoft. I'm super excited to talk to her about her career journey, what it was like getting this job, and what her day-to-day work is like. So let's get into that one. Hey, Mikelle, how are you?
Doing great. How are you, Katie?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm super excited to have you here to be talking about your experience as an early in profession developer, especially one who's using .NET. So thanks for making the time.
Of course, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Of course. So before we get into any of my questions, I have a whole long list for you. So I'm hoping we can get through as many as possible. But before any of that, could you give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself? Maybe how long you've been a developer, a little bit about how you got started, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I work on the .NET runtime team, and I've been on that team for 3 years, a little over 3 years. And I graduated from college from Brigham Young University in applied math, and then started my my full-time role after doing an internship the summer before. I started my full-time role in July of 2021.
Oh, nice. So you and I are really similar timeline-wise there. I also did an internship before joining full-time, and applied math, that's super cool. So did you do any programming as part of your degree, or was that kind of a later thing for you?
Yeah, so I took some C++ classes to learn how to code. I hadn't ever coded before going to college. And then I started taking Python classes that were more like algorithmic and math focused. So that's how I learned how to code.
Oh, nice. They also started us with C++. I feel like that's one of the de facto starting languages, especially at universities, but it's quite an experience to learn, I will say. So you mentioned a little bit about your role here at Microsoft. Can you take me through that a little bit more? Like, what are you doing kind of on the day-to-day? What types of code bases are you working with? What does that look like?
So our day-to-day on the .NET runtime team, there's a few different teams, and the one specifically that I'm on is the diagnostics team. So our team is in charge of helping developers have the tools that they need to diagnose issues in their apps, because we all know that the one thing that's the same about every app is that you're going to have issues and bugs. So my team's in charge of eventing and tracing. And we also have the debugger that if you ever use .NET or C# in VS Code or Visual Studio, that debugger hooks into the APIs that my team codes. So day-to-day for me looks like debugging the debugger, which has been kind of fun to figure out because the debugger was kind of always a black box for me, but now I understand it more because I spent a lot of time working with it.
Wow, it's like the Matrix. You're debugging the debugger. That's so cool. Did you have any experience with that, the kind of work that you do today prior to your job, or was that something that you learned along the way?
It was definitely something I learned along the way. I had never used C# before, and our code base is around 20 years old. So it's not only did I need to learn how to code in, we use C# and C++, which I had some experience with C++, but not only the language, it's also like all of the different objects and data structures that are used within the runtime. It kind of feels like a whole nother language as well. So to be honest, when I started, I was super overwhelmed and was like, what in the world is going on? But that's okay because I have a fantastic team who knew that that was going to be something that would happen. And then they take the time to make me feel comfortable, to ask questions, and to provide me with information. I have like one-on-ones with my teammates, and they teach me about different portions of the runtime. Or, for example, within the debugger, well, how do you set a breakpoint? And so I can go and talk to my teammates about, okay, here's what I've seen in the code. And then can we talk about how it actually works? So overall, it's been 3 years of an immense amount of learning that I look back and I sometimes can't believe how far I've come because I remember being super overwhelmed at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, that sounds like a lot to kind of have to upskill on. You know, you have everything you learned in your degree, but actually applying that to a real code base, and as you said, it's one that's 20 years old, is pretty intense. And I'm kind of assuming that a lot of the people watching who may be looking for a job are thinking, you know, how do my skills that I learned in my coursework or online, how does that apply to the job itself, as well as how long can I expect it's going to take for me to onboard? So can you speak to that a little bit? Like, how long did that take for you to start feeling comfortable? And what kinds of skills was it helpful to have going in?
One of them, well, there's probably two or three skills that I'd say have been really helpful. First, knowing how to code is the first thing because I do a lot of reading code and like following the logic through the code to recognize different patterns. It's also helpful now that we have Copilot because I can have a conversation with Copilot of, okay, here's what I think is going on. Could you help to verify that or not? Of course, taking everything with a grain of salt, but it doesn't really matter what language you know, so long as you're comfortable in the code. And then another skill that really helped with my onboarding is I am not afraid to ask questions. I knew that I was coming from applied math where I didn't know how the computer worked at all. And sometimes we even work on my team, we work as low level as the registers and how you get the context from the registers onto the threads. And so I had a lot of learning to do. And because I knew I had a lot of learning, then I was just happy to ask questions. And I think that's something that's really important to know as a student, that yes, you're learning so much in school and these classes are important and there's lots of skills that you can learn. And with that said, you're going to continue to learn on the job. So you're not expected to know everything. If you feel like you don't know anything, that's okay. Just do what you did in school of asking questions and figuring things out. And that's what you're expected to do in your job as well. And then I think the third thing that's been really helpful for me is sometimes it feels like, this could be a really hard problem to work on. And do I know enough to work on that problem? And the times that I've been able to learn the most has been when I've seen that there's a hard problem and then I choose to work on it because it's difficult and, of course, like impactful. And then I'm able to ask questions. And in the last year, I've been able to work on some of these hard problems. And that's really where I've seen a ton of growth in my onboarding, is from taking those challenges.
Wow. Yeah. I can pull out a couple of different things that you mentioned there that I found super insightful. I think the first being, you mentioned it doesn't matter what language you know once you get into the job itself, especially as somebody who's earlier in profession, they know that you're going to have a lot to learn. So as long as you know the basic structures and can kind of follow along, you can learn the nitty gritty, the syntax of the language.
Amen.
Yeah, definitely. And I think beyond that, I really liked your advice, both around not being afraid to ask questions, because I see that in myself a lot. Sometimes I'm like, oh, darn, I'm supposed to know what this is. Like, I can't ask about it. And that's just making it way harder for myself. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, not being afraid to dive into the hard thing, because you're just opening yourself up for an additional learning opportunity. And I think that can be hard to get over mentally, but it's really cool that was kind of something you did out of habit and were able to learn from. So that's so cool, Mikelle. That's awesome. As a follow-up question, I know we've been talking a lot about kind of what it's like in your day-to-day and how you were onboarded and what that was like. I'm also wondering a little bit about your interview process. Like, I'm sure a lot of the people watching maybe haven't gotten that first job yet. And I'm wondering what the process was like for you and any advice you might have for those folks.
So my interview process happened, like I kind of mentioned earlier, that I did an internship after my junior year of college. And then after the internship, was offered a full-time position. So the interviewing process for my internship looked like, after submitting my resume, and then I didn't hear back for probably a couple months, I heard back, and my first interview was in person, and it was a whiteboard style question. I think I might have written pseudocode. So just the interviewer had a question and I was to talk out loud and explain my thought process, but it was in pseudocode. So syntax didn't matter. And the second question was more of a puzzle kind of question. So it wasn't necessarily about coding, but just to explain my thought process, to see how I think. And so I think what helped me be successful in that was that I had been practicing talking out loud and explaining my thought process. So I was comfortable when that interview came. Mm-hmm. And then after a couple more months, I got another interview call back. And this one was remote. And we did more coding things. But it was a similar thing where talk about why I'm coding and explaining my thought process.
Mm. So you mentioned to kind of prepare for that style of interview, you did a lot of practice walking through and explaining your thought process. I'm wondering, did you use any particular resources or tools that helped you with that preparation?
Yeah. So in addition to like HackerRank or Elite Code, there,
Classic.
yep, there's also a book that I found. It's like coding interviews for Python because that was just the language I was most comfortable with at that point. And I would go through this book and they have different questions. So I would imagine, I don't remember, but I'd imagine it's kind of similar to HackerRank or Elite Code. And I think the important thing is to not just go through those problems, but to go through them as though you're there talking with an interviewer. Because they don't just want you to know how to code, they want to understand your thought process. So that's why it's so important to explain as you're going through, okay, the reason why, I'm going to start with a for loop because I think that if I do this, then I'll be able to get this variable. And it's okay if you don't get the first, the most performant code at first. You just start somewhere and iterate on where you start.
Yeah, that makes sense. And in addition to that type of preparation, was there anything else, like in addition to your resume, did you have any kind of projects that you sent along as well? Or was that something you kind of developed through your internship?
I think I just sent in my resume, but I worked on some research as an undergrad that was on my resume, and then kind of put a little bit about the classwork that I'd been working on. But the projects that I worked on were more during my internship.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're quickly coming to the end of our time here. It flew by. But as kind of a final question or two, I wanted to ask, you covered a lot of advice, both for, when you're starting out with your first job, as well as throughout the interview process. Is there any kind of final advice? I'm going to make this a two-parter. Is there any final advice that you'd give to somebody who's earlier in their career, kind of starting out either before they get their first job or early in their first job? And as a second, because this is the .NET Conf Student Zone, is there any advice you have for somebody who's learning C# or .NET for the first time?
For the first part, advice for early in career, either before or in first job. I think it's to have confidence in yourself, because if you would have told me that I would be where I am right now, 4, 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, it's kind of hard to believe that. So have confidence that you can do it, because I've shared my story of, well, really, I was super overwhelmed and had no idea what was going on when I started. And now I feel more comfortable and am able to make impactful features in the debugger. So you can do it too. Have confidence and keep practicing, and you'll go far. And for someone who's learning C#, I think this might be kind of cliche, but there's lots of good like videos online with C#, and the more you practice, the more confident you're going to get. So that's what I'd have to say.
Practice makes perfect. Hey, very sage advice. So I love that. Well, Mikelle, thank you so much. This was super helpful. I'm sure there's folks asking questions in the chat as well. We'll try to get to as many of your questions as we can, but thanks again for taking the time out of your day to record this and give some advice to our early in career audience here. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
All right. We'll hand it off to the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mikelle, thank you so much for being so open and talking about all of your career journey with me. I'm super excited for this next interview with Heather, who is working at Geocaching HQ. And I'm going to be talking with her about her experience switching careers from more of a data path to a software development path. So I'm super excited to get into it. So I'm just going to go hop on over there. All right. Hey, Heather, how are you?
Hey, Katie. Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. We've had a couple of awesome interviews so far, but I'm super excited to talk to you as somebody who's actually not working for Microsoft. You're at Geocaching HQ. Thanks for taking the time.
Of course.
So before I get into my long list of questions on the side here, which I'll be kind of looking back and forth at, I was hoping you could give a little bit of an introduction about yourself, maybe what you do at geocaching, but also I'm really excited to talk to you about your career transition from data. So maybe talking a little bit about that timeline as well.
Sure. So I'm currently a software engineering manager at Geocaching HQ, and my background is in .NET development and so in software engineering. And I currently manage the mobile teams at HQ, so the iOS and Android teams that work on our mobile apps.
Awesome. So you're currently a manager, and I just wanted to ask, so I know before you did some data and then you learned development. How long ago was that, and kind of what was that process like?
Yeah, definitely. So it was quite a bit ago, about a decade ago, that I got into software engineering. And I was, as you mentioned, originally a data analyst. So going all the way back to my college days, I studied Spanish and also math. And when I graduated, I remember thinking that I wanted to do something like really applied with math. I was pretty interested in statistics. And so I got a job as a data analyst, and I was doing a variety of data analysis, statistical analysis, and I really enjoyed that career. I was working with a programming language called R. It was like a scripting language that at the time was really common in stats. And I was creating small, like basically web apps with that language in my spare time at work, because I was creating kind of dashboards to see the data in a little bit more of a fun way. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And so one day I showed a coworker that kind of one of the projects that I had worked on, and that coworker happened to be a software engineer. And he was like, oh, we could really use more software engineers at our company if you're willing to do software engineering. And the thought had never struck me to be a software engineer, frankly, because I hadn't studied computer science. And so I remember thinking, that's really interesting. Like I really did like making these small web apps, but I just had never thought about that, like transitioning into software engineering. And then eventually they actually officially offered me a role as a software engineer. And I thought long and hard about it because I did also like data analysis, but I decided, I'm going to try something new. I can always go back to what I was doing before, and took the leap. And here I am. I've loved it ever since.
Wow, that's so cool that you kind of were presented that opportunity based on work that you were previously doing and were able to do that transition at your role. I feel like that must have been very helpful in the process. And I'm kind of wondering, because from my impression, it sounds like you already kind of started this application development journey prior to even being a software developer. Like, how did you learn those skills? I know it was on your job, but did you use particular resources? Was it kind of an implied part of being a data analyst, or was it something you went off and did?
Yeah, it certainly wasn't an implied part about around being a data analyst. It was, I was using some tooling that was similar, right? The scripting language, and also even in Excel, creating, small macros that you can write essentially a tiny program in. So there's some overlap in skill set there, but certainly it wasn't like the same tooling or the same background as a typical software engineer. And so how that transition worked when I was offered the role as a software engineer is that I was essentially put on a team with other software engineers at the company, and then slowly kind of siphoned off my data analysis work and started working with the team. And really, like, my teammates at the time were mentors for me. And they showed me kind of the basics of getting started with setting up a program. And I also did some self-study to watch a few, online videos and tutorials about programming and C# and kind of learned on the fly in that way. And so there was certainly some overlap in skills, but it was a lot of learning on the job.
Wow. So they put you on that team kind of right away, and then you started to transition. That must have been kind of intimidating. Like, I'm glad you had some great mentors, but I'm wondering, when you kind of reflect on that experience, what was kind of most difficult, but also what was the easiest given your background? Do you remember any specific things that came up where you're like, wow, like this is something I haven't encountered before?
Yeah, I would say the most difficult, at least at the point of me making the decision to become a software engineer, was more like emotional than skill-based in terms of difficulty. It was giving up a career that I had kind of imagined and giving up that track of what I might do. And so it's hard sometimes to make those transitions because you're not really sure. You want to cling to the familiar, and you're not sure if this new path will be the path that you really will find joy in. But I had been given advice to kind of know that I could always, even if it were in a different company, I still had that skill set that I kind of was coming into software engineering with. And so I could always go back and do that or grow in that skill set again, that data analysis skill set. If I wanted to, I can try something and pivot, right? Life is open to changes in that sense. And so I think that was the hardest thing for me was jumping into the unknown and not knowing much about the career and not knowing if I was making a decision that was right for me. And then I guess in more of a technical sense, it was really, just helped by having folks help me along. And I really enjoyed the aspect of writing some code and creating something that multiple people would use, like many, many people. I think that's one difference between data analysis and software engineering, is that when I would do like data reports, some people would see those reports and they would certainly be effective, hopefully, and useful. And sometimes like important people would see those reports too, and it would really help the business make decisions. But there's really a small audience in the work that I was doing. And with software, there can be a really large audience in the work that you're doing, and you can affect other people's lives in this way that I find really fulfilling.
Yeah, that completely makes sense to me and definitely resonates. And I'm expecting us to have some folks watching this that will probably either be considering a career change of some sort, or maybe currently in that process. I know you mentioned a couple of factors in your decision, like number one, the comfort that you'll always have those skills and you can go back. I'm wondering, are there any other factors that you remember considering as you were thinking through this choice to go to software development?
That's a good question. I don't know if there were.
It's okay if nothing comes. I know I'm trying to reach into a period 10 years ago. I'm just so interested in, I feel like I talk to so many people, both through my job, but also friends even, who are kind of considering career switches, and there's so many different things that tend to come up. Sometimes it's a financial one, sometimes it's skills based, sometimes it's job prospects. And I think you are in a very interesting spot where kind of data and software both are on pretty even playing fields in those regards. So I was just curious if there was anything else that kind of popped into your mind as you were considering those options.
Yeah. I mean, you make a good point that I think a lot of those weren't factors for me as much, just because of kind of the unique transition that I had. And I think mostly just that I was interested in kind of doing more problem solving. Like I really did like the problem solving aspect. That was kind of a crossover between data analysis and software engineering. You can find that in both of those spaces. But again, what I found really compelling about software engineering was just this ability to really like write some code that millions of people can see or utilize or can help them. And not that many careers have that. So I think that really called me to try software engineering. And I did love that aspect of it. And so I've loved it ever since.
Yeah. At what point did you feel like, oh, this is real? Like I've made it and I'm a software engineer now. Was it when you first joined that team, or was it some later milestone for you?
It was probably a later milestone. I think probably when I, created my first like greenfield project and felt really comfortable working in a project and writing code and writing classes from scratch and really feeling like I had a good grasp on what I was writing and what I was doing. I would say that's when I probably felt that I was a true software engineer.
Yeah. And this next question, I have to add a disclaimer, like it's going to be different for everybody and every kind of career change. But I'm wondering if you could talk me through kind of the timeline of this. Like when did you made your switch, you joined the other team? How long did it take you to feel like you knew what you were doing? And how long did it take you to get that first greenfield application?
Yeah, that's a great question. I probably had, 3 to 6 months where I felt like I was really becoming like starting to, I guess, get on my feet within the role, because there was maybe a 1 to 2-ish month period where I was doing a little bit of both roles and kind of rolling off of my old work and into new work. So that time period was probably a bit longer than someone who's transitioning and just starting a full-time role as a software engineer. But yeah, I would say 6 months probably before I really felt that feeling of like I have confidence in knowing what I'm doing and really feeling like I can dive into a project and do work that's pretty independent and not needing as much guidance from others.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I feel like there's so much that goes into that transition. I'm actually shocked at how short it took you to kind of onboard and feel comfortable, but that's so amazing. Now that you're kind of on the other side of it, I'm wondering if you have any advice for folks who may be kind of either starting or in the middle of this kind of journey. And, it is 10 years later, but is there any advice from when you were doing it that you think would be valuable to somebody who's just starting that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that seeking out different forms of learning. So if you're, trying to learn a specific programming language or programming platform, that there are, of course, many online resources nowadays. And depending on how you're doing your transition, that you might have mentors or friends, perhaps, others that can help you. But kind of going for other styles. So for example, if you try to watch one online video and it doesn't really resonate with you, try a different online video, maybe with a slightly different topic or from a slightly different person, right? Everybody has a different learning style. And so sometimes what sticks for one person doesn't really stick for another. And I do recall that way back in college, in my math degree, I had to take a coding class actually. And I don't remember really enjoying it that much, right? It was kind of like the pen and paper. We weren't actually, you had to write out the code. You did do a little bit on the computer, but a little old school. And it didn't connect with me, right? But learning how to code with peers that were willing to teach me, and also learning via a few online videos that I really had that resonated with me, I think helped me kind of see what I could do and see the passion in the work. And additionally, I think just like getting your hands dirty and starting up a project and writing your own code, even if it's something really simple, can be a really fulfilling way to connect. So if you're like watching a tutorial, instead of just watching it, doing some of it yourself, that can be a really good way to kind of jumpstart your learning. And my last piece of advice would probably be that within that, considering creating something that connects with maybe a passion that you already have. So if you have a hobby or an interest outside of software engineering, I always find that if there is, like let's say you like music and you're like, I'm going to create a music app to inventory all my music. If you're doing something and you're creating a project towards something that you're passionate about, then I think some of those other skills that you're learning come a little bit easier, because you're just so focused on the end goal of what you're creating that you're naturally absorbing a lot of that information and that knowledge. And that can be a really cool thing to reflect on and know that like, hey, I was just passionate about making this app, but now I know, all these new skills. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally see, you mentioned you're really into problem solving. I can definitely see that coming through, especially with that last piece of advice, and, really trying to kind of scope your own learning to something you're interested in and put it in context. I think that's really cool. So kind of final question in this line of questioning is, if you could go back in time and change anything about that transition, if there were any hurdles you faced that you think you could have navigated differently, would you change anything, and what would that thing be?
Yeah, I actually don't think I would change much. I really have enjoyed my career as a software engineer, and I'm glad that I took that leap, and I'm glad that I guess, took the risk and tried a different career path. And so I'm happy with that change. And again, at the time, I do remember feeling pretty hesitant about, whether or not that was going to be something that I wanted. And it feels like a big deal to change your career. It feels really heavy. It feels like your entire life is going to change, and maybe in a way that you don't want it to. But for me, I would say my entire life did change, but in a positive way. And again, that folks can always pivot and change to something else. It's never so permanent. But I wouldn't change much. I guess if I had to change one thing, I would have tried to become a software engineer earlier, because I do find the work more fulfilling. And maybe that's a cheesy answer, but I wouldn't change too much, frankly.
Awesome. I have one final question. Then I'd like to open it up to you to see if there's anything I missed that we should have talked about during this conversation. I'm wondering, because now that you're a manager, do you ever run into anybody who went through a similar career transition, and what's it like being on kind of the other side, either as a mentor or as a peer to them? I'm not sure if you have. That's totally fine if you haven't. I just was curious.
No, that's a fantastic question. I definitely have worked with a lot of software engineers whose backgrounds aren't computer science either, right? So it is a common degree or common background for software engineers, but it's also pretty common for folks to come from other areas, and sometimes backgrounds that are wildly different, like art, or I was an artist and then I got into software engineering. And so you really shouldn't feel limited by your background. I've met plenty of software engineers, very talented ones, that haven't been a software engineer forever or haven't always known that they wanted to be a software engineer. But I would say that sometimes I do see some imposter syndrome in folks who, as like a manager or a mentor, in folks who don't have that traditional background. I think there's often this feeling of like, I didn't get the training that someone else got in my schooling, and so I must be missing something, right? Like, even if I have all this on the job training, that there's something about the schooling or the philosophy of code that I might be missing. And so sometimes I see some imposter syndrome where folks feel like they don't have everything it takes to be the best engineer. And I absolutely, would say that they do. And so most people that I see that in are really good at their job, and they're not usually missing out on too much in terms of concepts. And so having that, like in having that hands-on experience, I would say, is the most important. And some like programs in school right now do have good paths that they're trying to have young adults. I almost said kids, sorry. Some programs have paths where they're having young adults like really learn what it's like to do software engineering in a company. And I think that's really great, but some programs still don't. And so it actually is more helpful sometimes when people come into the job knowing a little bit more of the concepts that they would use on the job rather than just the theory of computer science. And so never doubt your hands-on experience, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. I think sometimes traditional education can really focus on the theoretical side, but sometimes just having those applied skills really makes the difference. And it doesn't matter where you learn those, it just having them and having the openness to continue to learn. All right. Well, thank you so much, Heather. This was so helpful. And I know I learned a lot. I'm sure the viewers learned a lot as well. We have a couple more sessions today, so I'm just going to go ahead and hand it on back for the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
So, folks, right now we're gonna see some amazing students from our community. So, right now you're gonna see a PhD student, that uses .NET for amazing computing. You don't know how amazing this is because a lot of people assume .NET can just be used for AI or internet apps or some, classic desktop applications. But no, imagine high-level computing. That's with Victor Olet. Stay tuned.
Hello, my name is Victor. I'm a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, and I'm a student at Curtin University in Perth, Western Australia. Today, I'm going to talk about accelerating HPC workloads with Azure, Birch, and .NET, something that has really helped me a lot for my own work that I do, which I'm really excited to talk about and share with you. So I'll just get to my slides. So a bit about me. As I mentioned, I'm a doctoral student. So I'm sort of a mix between a wet lab and a computational chemistry student. So wet lab, when I say wet lab, you just think chemicals, mixing chemicals, like working in a proper lab setting. That's been the bigger part of my research. But recently, I've been adding more like computational chemistry segments to my research. I'll share a little bit about what I do, but I should say that a lot of the skills that I've learned as a student ambassador have really helped me explore the computational section of my work. So what exactly do I do? So in the wet lab, the photo there that shows a bit of my wet on the left one, that's my lab area. So that's where I work. On the wet lab, what my area of research is in like biofuels. So what we're doing is we're studying biofuels, some potential fuels, and we're trying to see them how viable they would be for transport fuels, like thinking of your petrol, substituting petrol and diesel. That's what you're trying to go for. But that means we need to study the fuel quite well in terms of its properties. We need to know how exactly the chemistry of the fuels, energy density, and things like that. So my research has been, how do I increase the energy density and stabilize biofuels? Because they're organic. So unlike petrol and diesel, which are sort of hydrocarbons, biofuels have other oxygen components in there, so it can go bad. So I'm trying to stabilize it and make sure it can be stable for longer. So that is the wet lab component. So I do those kind of studies. I do use analytical instruments. That's me using one of the instruments on the right. So that's the wet lab component, which I've come to enjoy and think it's really important. On the computational side, it's more studying chemistry computationally, because at the end of the day, it's really chemical reactions. And chemical reactions nowadays, because of the improvement in compute, we can be able to do a lot of simulations. And which gives us a lot of insights that we cannot get experimentally. So these are just some figures that I have showing some of the results that we can get computationally. We can study the molecular structure. We can even know how many electrons or how many charges are there on each atom. So that is the really good thing with the computational chemistry, which sometimes we just don't have the resolution to look at in the wet lab. So that's on the left. On the right, another thing which we can do is we can be able to predict reaction mechanisms. What that means is we can be able to predict because experimentally, we know the reactant, we know the product, but we don't know what's happening in between. And so using computational chemistry techniques, we can be able to have a very good prediction of what is likely happening in between the reactant and the product. So between the A0 and A4, which, for example, on the right figure, all the steps in between are predicted. And so it gives you an idea of what could happen, which is really cool. And it adds a lot of value to the results that we were able to get experimentally. So that's what I do. What I'd like to share also is how does cloud computing or that aspect of things come to this kind of workflow. Computational chemistry is a very intensive workflow, and it involves a lot of steps. And what I've found is, as a student ambassador and also in a PhD in this area, is there are various services within Azure that enable this kind of workflow to work really well. So I'm going to introduce Azure Batch. You may be familiar with it, but Azure Batch is a very good workflow orchestrator because it allows you to do this kind of tasks on being able to automatically scale up compute nodes as you need, because as I mentioned, computational chemistry is highly intensive. So the simulations I do, they can easily take 100 if I'm resource free, I can easily take up to 50,000 to more than that cores, CPU cores. So it can be scaled pretty big, quite big. And so you need to be able to run it in a very large amount of compute. So Azure Batch, as you can see on the diagram on the right, which is explains how it works. So generally, we have a computational chemistry application. So that is the application of service there. Let me just bring up my laser pointer. So this is the application of service there. So that would be the software that we're using. So in this case, it's computational chemistry software. I need input files. So you need to have molecular structure files, right? And so those would be the input files. So if you're going to do it on Azure, these need to be containerized because that's the best way to be able to access it be able to store it in Azure and then share it, have like a shared library situation between different compute. So such that different computes can access this one particular location. That's the beauty of the container. So input files are on Azure storage there. And so the next thing that would need to happen is that we would need to run the job, right? But the job would run on a pool. So a pool is really a string of a cluster of computational nodes. And these computational nodes have CPU that do the job. So what happens is that these pools actually have access to this service. So have access to the software. So each of them, you don't have to install the software in each of the nodes. They can access it directly here. And so pool creation, and also, so when the computer is created, you need to actually have the commands to say execute this software. And that's the job. So that's the tasks that are running on the nodes. Again, they're also interacting with the application service. And so once the job runs, the output files are also put onto Azure storage. So I want to highlight that all this is actually done on Azure. Azure Batch manages all of that. I don't have to control how many pools, how many jobs. I mean, you said that initially, but the actual setup and orchestration is done by Azure Batch, which is really, really cool. So this is how the same computational workflow can be done on Azure Batch. So I would like to show a demo of how that works. So I'll just flick off to my Azure portal. So I'm now on my Azure portal, and I have this. It's a .NET application, so it's C#. Just to show you how it looks like. So this is the app that I'm running. Just a quick overview. I set my environment variables, container names. What I do want to show is that all this is automated, and how it works. We already have. So we have the Azure Storage Batch, Azure Batch client all set up prior. The credentials, I've already run the credentials. So my MLSA storage account and other things is already set up. So it's really ready to run. But you can see all these are functions that are built into the software. So I initialize Azure credentials, I set up Azure storage. They're all modularized functions. And so this is what's running in the backend. So I should also mention that at the end of my code, which is very important to do with cloud, is being able to clean your resources. So I do have code that also cleans up your resources, because once your job is done, especially if you're doing a very big computational job, you want to make sure that your resources are no longer being used. So that's the app there. I'm just looking for the code that will show you the cleanup. This is monitoring. You can see it says monitoring tasks there. Resource cleanup. That's add tasks. Create job async. Get containers, that's URL. Get file name. Okay, that's upload files. All right, I'll show you the cleanup when the program actually runs. So I will run the program, and it will output what is happening. So I will do .NET run. Yep, those are my environment variables. It creates a container and it uploads, for example, this case uploads input files, which are in a test video files. So you can see they're uploaded. It creates a pool. A pool is a compute nodes. So if I refresh this, it's still loading up. Sorry, oops, get rid of that. Still loading up. So it pool create jobs and it's adding tasks to those jobs. So it should come up. Not fun. I think I know what I need to do. There we go. So you can see it's created 6 vCPUs, and this is a heat map showing what the nodes are doing. So you can see they're still starting up. Another thing we can see is the jobs. I want to show you the jobs. Yep, so those are the jobs that are running. You can see there's 6 tasks running on this particular nodes. So it's still starting up. It's a VM, so it needs time. But you can see once the nodes are set up, these tasks will run. And this task for our test is actually converting MP4 files to GIF files, because I'm just using a test case. But you can see these ones will run on this particular nodes. So refresh, still starting up. VMs take time, so sometimes it's good to have containers or other services which are maybe ready to go. Let's just give this some time. There we go. So now you can see one is on idle, one's running. And so it's running these particular tasks. And it should be done. So idle one is starting. So it looks like all the tasks are done because they got all tasks completed successfully. And if I do that again, you can see all are done. So it's like I mentioned, the resource cleanup. So you can see that once it's done, it deletes the container, it deletes the job, and it deletes the pool. This is just good practice whenever you're running things on the cloud. But as you can see, all that was orchestrated via this particular app, .NET app, and we were able to run jobs on 3 compute nodes. If you want to run it on 10, or even if you want to set it up to be automatically scaling up and down, you can do that. So this was just a test case we showed. And to see the results, so if my output would be sent to a container. So if I do that, you can see that these are files that have been just created, the GIF files, and they've been uploaded to my storage blob account. And so it could be, this is a demonstration workflow. I could have had a computational chemistry workflow, and that is the result. And so you can see that it's actually it's done the whole job, which I think is really, really cool to be able to have all this run automatically via just the app that I created. So that concludes the end of the demo. I will now switch back to my slides, because I recognize that this part is this .NET conference students also includes a career portion. I would just like to talk a little bit about my involvement with as the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. So one of the privileges I've really had is being involved with the reactor. So it's been unique because they're not, I'm sort of in the field in between science and technology. So coming in from that space has been really good, and that it's attracted a lot of audiences for me. And so on the right is me sharing my computational chemistry workflows on the reactor, and just sharing with the audience what can be done. So I have really benefited a lot from technology, from Microsoft technologies, because you learn how to do things more, like you're enabled to do more than you thought, because learning the software, learning the tech is very useful for me to be able to actually enhance the work that I do. So I have benefited a lot. And so that's been my involvement with the Microsoft Reactor. Also, along the way, picking up tech skills has really helped me just get rid of the pointer. Has really helped me grow as a student ambassador, and along the way, I did have the opportunity to be a Microsoft Windows Insider MVP because I use Windows. I'm part of the Windows Insider program quite a bit, and so along the way, there's been the opportunity to get this as well. So just being able to explore other fields beyond my mind. So I'm chemistry, chemical engineering, but learning tech has really, being open to learn new skills has really enhanced what I do and really given me opportunity to sell in other areas too. So that's, I did get a Microsoft, I also became, I got my gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador status recently. And that was something that I didn't know that I would be able to do. I never thought that I'd have the skills to the, like text coding skills when I started out, but it's just a testament to the learning that can be done being involved in these programs. And this on the right is how much I received from the Windows Insider. I really like some of the really, really good match there. So that is what I wanted to share as well. So that really concludes the end of my my session. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you.
Wow, Victor, thank you so much for this presentation. And you folks, you can see why that is incredible. .NET framework is not just for doing like applications. You can do much more. Imagine doing high-level computing. You can see the power of the .NET framework, even using a very high institutional level. But you may ask yourself, okay, Pablo, that sounds amazing, but how can I collaborate with Microsoft? How can I grow and, use all these opportunities you talk with us in career and, learn the technical skills? So talk with Nicholas right now to understand how you can join how can you join your trajectory with the amazing Microsoft Learn student ambassadors? Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session about my journey in the community. So today we will talk a little bit about what the Student Ambassador Program is about, the benefits in the program, and then I will share my personally journey in pictures, but also give you some information on how I've got to where I am today, and then I will discuss with you some topics that I was thinking about when I was thinking about joining the Student Ambassador Program. And lastly, I think I will also share some useful resources with you guys that can help you navigate in the application process, but also after you have joined the program as well. So before we get started, a little bit about me. My name is Niklas Olsen, and I'm studying data technician, specializing in infrastructure. I'm 21 years old, and in my free time, I use a lot of my time dive into Microsoft Intune, blog about Intune, but I also speak about Intune at events as well. Apart from that, I'm also a Microsoft Learn student ambassador, just over a year now, and I'm at the gold milestone at the moment. If you're interested in learning a little bit about Intune or want to read my blogs, my blog is learnintune.net. So enough about me. So what is the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program? So the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program is a global group of students that love to learn and help other students. It's basically a global group from all over the world that love to share their knowledge, but also gain more technical and soft knowledge as well. Basically, in the program, there is different milestones. So there is the alpha milestone, the beta milestone, and the gold milestone. And basically, you have to do certain tasks in order to advance different milestones. So what this is all about is share with the community and share your knowledge. And of course, engage with other students and MVPs as well. It's very easy to share the same passion with the other students and MVPs that like the products just as much as you do. And it's a great opportunity for you to grow your skills, both technically, of course, but also soft skills as well, which I believe is very important when you are looking for an internship or your future job. And lastly, the most important part is, of course, that you are sharing your knowledge with the community and you are getting empowered by the community as well. There is a lot of energy in the community and it's great to be a part of. So I would highly encourage you to try to read a little bit more about the program, but also apply if you find it interesting. Scan the QR code down here, and then it will redirect you to the website. So that was a little bit about the program itself. So what do you actually gain as benefits in the program? Just to start off, it's not about the benefits in general, but benefits are really nice and can really help you advance your skills as well. And just to name a few of them, with the Alpha milestone, you will get access to the Visual Studio Enterprise subscription, LinkedIn Learning, but you will also get your own student ambassador mail address. When you advance to beta, you will of course get all the Alpha benefits, some swag. You will also receive event support and mentorship as well. And once you've been a beta or been in the program for more than a year, you can actually self-nominate yourself, or you can get nominated by a Microsoft employee or existing gold student ambassadors to get to the gold milestone. So if you get accepted, you will of course receive all the alpha and beta benefits. You will get access to special events and speaking engagements, program leadership opportunities. You will also be able to participate in pilot programs, and as well get a very close mentorship with MVPs as well. And lastly, you might be invited to the MVP program. So there are some really great benefits in the program, but again, it isn't all about the benefits. It's all about the different you do in your local community and some of the nice experience that you gather together with the other students in the program. And just to give you guys a quick overview of the benefits, so we have the beta swag kick here in the left picture, and you will get some stickers, you will get a shirt, socks, and some other great things as well. The gold swag kit, on the other hand, here is the sweatshirt that I'm wearing today, and also some stickers and a backpack as well. So that's a little bit about the benefits. And then I will give you guys an introduction to my journey in pictures, and show you guys what I've been up to the last year. And I would just say it's been an incredible year. I have learned a lot. I have got some nice experiences. I have traveled a lot. I have really grown personally as well. So to start off with, the first set of pictures here are from my first in-person talk, where I was talking together with Rudy, another Microsoft MVP. We had a close mentorship before the event, and I asked Rudy if he wanted to join me on presenting at this event in the UK, and he immediately said yes, and we did some presentation together. But it was also a great chance to meet a lot of other people from the community at the event as well. But yeah, it's an incredible feeling when you're standing there in front of the crowd, a little bit nervous, as I am right now as well. But it's an incredible feeling when you're doing your talk, and the feeling afterwards, after all your preparation as well. So in general, it's an amazing feeling. Other than that, I have also visited the Microsoft headquarters in Denmark for an event. Of course, where we took a picture in front of the Microsoft sign. And the two other pictures on the right hand, we were out eating together with two MVPs and Microsoft employee as well, in the US. And the last picture here is with a engineer from the Microsoft intern team as well. So it's just to show you guys how incredible the community is, and which really gives you guys some nice friendships. And I would say it's lifelong friendships, but also some really valuable friendships as well. It's a really great experience to be at those events, but also be in the community in general as well. So what have happened the last year? So I have organized 4 virtual events. I am community leader currently in 4 different communities. I have founded the Microsoft Next Gen Heroes together with 2 other Microsoft Learn student ambassadors that I got together through the program. So this is also just a sign on how important it is to connect globally and see some of the nice things that can happen together. I've advanced to the gold milestone from the new milestone in the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program. I have attended the Experts Live Denmark, MMS More in the US, Workplace Ninja Summit in Switzerland, and I also had my first in-person session in the UK in July, as I showed you earlier, which was a really great experience, but also something I enjoyed a lot. I've also been speaking at 5 virtual events. I have been written 25 plus blogs on my own site at Microsoft Tech Community as well. And lastly, I have done an Intune series on Microsoft Reactor. And of course, out of all those things, the best thing about all of this is being a part of the program and contribute to the community. Once you start contribute to the community, you see all the nice things that comes back to you through connections, through friendships, and through all of the experience that you gather together in the community as well. So I want to join, but this was exactly the feeling that I was standing with before I applied to the program. I was being a little bit nervous. I was not quite sure how it would impact me or how it would help me in general. But some of the thoughts that I had before I got started was I was really nervous about sharing on socials, such as LinkedIn. I was thinking, what were people thinking about me? Um, what would they think when I share a blog? What would they think when I was sharing something in regards to the program? And also, I was thinking again, what do people think about me? And this is a really common thought in people, and I also think it's a thought that are in a lot of people as well. So I think it's very important for me to address this in this call, um, where I talk about I actually had the same feeling. So if you're sitting right now and you are having the same exact thoughts, I will just tell you that don't think about this, because once you join the program and you find some of the things that you love, some of the things or some of the technologies you love as well. The first time you're really nervous about sharing on social media, but the second, the third, the fourth time, it's just getting easier, and people will support you. And that's the most important thing that I can say. People will support you. And lastly, once you have joined the program, you might think, how do I fulfill the requirements? Where should I start? Yes, this is also the thought that I had. But we are so lucky that the program are filled with great students from all around the world that would love to help you guys start with fulfilling the requirements, guide you through the program, give you some great resources and opportunities in order to grow as well. And there's also some amazing community managers out there that are really, really happy to help you and guide you through the beginning of the program as well. And if you're joining the program or are thinking about joining it, please reach out to me, because I'm more than happy to help you as well. So I hope that I'm addressing some of the thoughts that you might sit with right now, because I know it can be a little bit anxiety about it, but also some nervous thoughts about it. But I'm just saying, please, I'm just saying that from my experience, I've had a really great experience with this. So I hope you will get the same as well. And to give you guys some resources in order to navigate the program, but also learn more about the program, you can try to take a look at the Microsoft Security Insights show, where Pablo Vemendi, the global program director, and me were invited by the host, where we were talking a little bit about the program and how it can help students get started in their career, but also grow their technical and soft skills as well. So this is a really great video if you would like to learn more about the program. If you're looking for more steps on how to join the program or an actual introduction to the program, you should take a look at the Microsoft Next Gen Heroes Introduction to MLSA program. This is where me and the two other Microsoft Learn student ambassadors will guide you through how to get started, how to join the Discord at the first time, how to apply, all those kind of things. We will guide you through it, and then you can take over from there and just rock in the program. That's really in the intention here. But you can always reach out to me. You can write to me on email, niklasolsen@studentambassadors.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well. If you scan this QR code, you will also be redirected to my profile on the mvp.microsoft.com site, where you can find my contact details as well, if you are looking to connect with me. Please do. I'm more than happy to help you get started in the program. But also, if you have other questions or just want to connect, that's totally fine. I'm open for it. So thank you guys for watching this little session about my journey in the community. I hope to see you in the program, but I also hope to see you in future events as well. Have a great day.
Wow, Nicholas, that was incredible. And folks, you saw how Microsoft can you start at the start of your university until you go to the PhD. You saw how can you use .NET to your portfolio site, your AI apps. You can see how, how this career at Microsoft works. So see how many challenges we face with .NET. Even in the daily, you see how much the .NET framework is made for you to develop your best solutions. So, Katie, do you have any last tips for the folks here?
Yeah, well, I definitely learned a lot from our career portion as well as the technical one. And something I really took away from getting to speak with all of our amazing speakers is that it's okay to go into a career in tech not knowing everything. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Everyone around you wants you to succeed. So just try your best. Keep asking those questions and it's going to be all right. And with that, I really just want to thank all of our speakers today for taking the time to join us here. I want to thank you all for watching this. These sessions will all be available on the .NET YouTube after this event. So you can totally check them out later. You can pause them, especially those technical sessions. You can pause them and go through them at your own pace. And finally, I want to share some of our Learn More links to make sure that you can be successful with .NET and following this event. So again, we have our C# certification. That's totally free. This link is going to take you to Free Code Camp, where you can check out the certification and then do all of the training content on Microsoft Learn. We have some event resources, and we also have our survey. I would love if you could fill that out and really tell us what you thought about the event. Give us all of your feedback. We'd love to incorporate it into future events and also just know how this one went. So thank you all so much. I had a great time. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did as well.
Thank you for being with us in this amazing .NET Conf Student Zone. Hopefully, you're gonna see everywhere else, right? We have so many events at Microsoft, but this is made for you. So let us know what you think in our survey. Thank you once again for all of our speakers, and see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.